Welcome back to Worlds of Protheka audiobooks. And if this is your first time, be warned. Once you step into Protheka, you'll never want to leave. With beasts who will stop at nothing to protect the women they love, and women who are only just finding out what a real man can be, you'll lose yourself in the dark romance of these fantasy stories. To bring you these free full audiobooks, we have to listen to this platform's guidelines, and they say that Protheka's steamiest scenes aren't allowed. But you can still get them from the unabridged version of any Prothekan audiobook. All you have to do is go to worldsofprotheka.com. With promo code YouTube30, we're offering you the opportunity to get 30% off of any audiobook, ebook, or bundle. We appreciate you subscribing to the channel, as it makes bringing these free full audiobooks to you possible. Don't forget to like and comment to let us know what you think. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this story is just the beginning. Chapter 1. Mary. I knock hard on the door. There's a desperation in my rap, but I can't afford to lose it out here, in front of the clan. I'm wound so tightly, I feel like I'm about to explode into a million pieces. I knock again, louder this time. The door finally opens to Bonnie's confused face. Her eyes light up when she sees me, reading me with the expertise of family. "Oh God, Mary," she says softly, her tone a knowing one. We stare at one another for a long moment, a million unsaid things passing between us before she holds the door open wider for me. "Come in." She barely manages to get the door closed before I fall apart. I hide my face in an elbow and sob like I've been needing to since I found out. Bonnie doesn't interrupt, simply stroking my back in long sweeps and holding me as I cry it out. There will be a time to talk about it, but not now. Not just yet. "Oh, Mary, just let it out," she tells me, and I do. It feels like I'll never find the end of my tears, but somehow my body runs out before my soul is ready to. Bonnie seems to take my silence as me calming down. "Okay, Mary," she says, pulling back to look at me. "Do you think you can tell me what has you so upset?" I sniffle, barely hearing the words as I breathe. "I'm pregnant." Her eyes widen just a little before they narrow with a question. "Who's the father?" That one reminder makes me burst into tears all over again. Bonnie gathers me up in a warm embrace, ignoring the high whistle of the kettle in the other room. Though the misery remains, reason returns. I break from her hug and wipe my tears. "I don't mean to keep you." "Stay right here," she says, guiding me toward her couch. "Green or black?" I wave her offer away and rest my head on the couch back miserably, the tears coming in a steady stream. I don't want to be like this. It's my job to keep my head, and still, I'm crying over an orc. Bonnie returns with 2 cups. "I made it just the way you like it, 2 sugars and milk." I accept it, staring into the fawn-hued liquid. She takes a sip of her own, then sets it down and gives me all her attention. "You know you can tell me anything." "Can I?" I don't dare take a sip, setting it down instead. "I can't have caffeine." Bonnie's concerned expression freezes. "Oh!" She glances down at my stomach, then back up at me. "Right, I'm sorry." Her sudden realization is almost humorous, and a miserable laugh escapes me. "Don't tell her, please. I don't want anyone else to know." "I'd never," she assures me, putting down her tea and sitting beside me. "Who's the father?" she asks again, more gently this time. I keep my jaw clamped shut lest my tongue betrays me. She rubs me as if she's trying to warm me up. "It's okay. These things happen." "Not to me," I moan, dropping my head into the crook of her shoulder. "I'm so stupid." "You're not stupid," she says. "You are one of the smartest people I know. You're organised and have an eye for detail, and you make everything you touch better. And whoever this bastard is, he's going to get a taste of my medicine if he doesn't man up." Another miserable laugh escapes me, She continues stroking my back. Tell me. I promise I won't string him up on the gate by his innards. I shouldn't. You shouldn't keep it bottled up like this. How long have you known? I shake my head, unable to look her in the eye. A week or two, maybe. Though others have had suspicions for longer. Bonnie is waiting for me to fess up, and I can't stand the pressure any longer. She's right. I'm going to go insane if I don't confide in someone, and who better than my own cousin? At least she has my best interest at heart. It's Loki's. A chill comes over her. Isn't he supposed to? Yes, I admit, wanting to tear my hair out at the prospect. He's not allowed to marry a human. The elders insisted he take an orc woman, since he's the chieftain. Oh, Bonnie, what should I do? She gathers me up against her chest and only shakes her head. It's because of Irish and Inzo and... I continue, hating to admit that her happiness is the cause of my misery. The elders don't want him following in their footsteps, but it's too late for me. For the first time, I touch my stomach and weep at the prospect of this child never knowing his father the way they should. This was a huge mistake. Bonnie shakes her head. A child is never a mistake. You have me, Mary. You have us. I sink against her and let her hold me. We sit like that for a long time before she sighs. I never expected. I mean, you've always said you two were just friends. I hadn't thought anything else of it. You're the only one, I want to grumble. It shouldn't have happened, I admit, but over the last few months I've been spending a lot of time with him. My grief has shriveled into something manageable again, and I feel like I owe Bonnie an explanation. I sit up and fold my hands in my lap, staring at them. When he got injured in the fight, I took care of him. There was already something there, you know. I look up at her to gauge her reaction. Her expression is full of compassion as she rubs my knee, coaxing me to continue. I think it went too far and... I touch my stomach again. But you have feelings for him, she says. Does he know? I shake my head furiously. I'd never tell him, not after what the council decided. His people need him more than I do. It's not my place to love him. She goes still at my confession. You love him. Tears well up again, blinding me. Of course I love him, I shout, that grief bubbling to the surface again. Bonnie simply listens as I rant. He's a wonderful orc, and a better leader, and, oh, you have no idea how sweet he is. He's so gentle and honest. I clasp my hands tightly, the knuckles going white. It's not fair that I have to work with him every day, pretending I don't have this great weight on my heart, knowing that his child is growing inside of me. I can't keep smiling and pressing on like this doesn't affect me. When I first realised I cared about him, I couldn't believe it myself. He's an orc, I thought, resolved to thinking they were all just a bunch of brutes. Loki proves me wrong every day. I touch my lips. I still remember how he kissed me, like he was afraid to hurt me, like he cared more about my well-being than his own gratification. Mary? Bonnie interrupts gently, catching my hand and squeezing. Does he know? I shake my head. I'm not sure. He'd be an idiot not to. She sweeps a tear from my cheek. I'm so sorry you've had to carry this weight around all by yourself. You're right, it's not fair. We sit together in silence for a long while. Outside, the clan carries on with the day. I can't help but wonder where Loki is, right now, and what he's doing, who he's with. He's already searching for a mate, gathering information on the orc women in this clan and in others. He's not subtle about the search either, leaving a list on his desk for me to find. After everything that's happened between us, no less. He doesn't love me, I think, though when I close my eyes, I see his, full of compassion and kindness. He's burned into my brain, and I can recall the taste of him on my tongue, even when he's miles away. If this is love, I don't want it. It's too painful. The tea has gotten cold, but Bonnie does nothing about it, petting my hair in slow, even sweeps. "So," she finally says, breaking the tepid silence, "what do you plan on doing?"
Chapter 2. Loki. The morning draws long as I wait for Mary to come into work. It's not like her to be absent without so much as an explanation. She could have sent someone to let me know if she was sick, or called for the doctor, which would have gotten back to me eventually. Everything gets back to me eventually. I rise from my desk and rub my jaw, wondering and waiting. Everywhere I look, there's evidence of her touch. From the meticulously filed records to the stark absence of disarray in my office. It doesn't even look like my office anymore since she became my secretary. Should I check on her? Maybe it's safer to have someone else do it, like her cousin, Bonnie, or one of the other humans. I'm steeped in indecision, which is not like me at all. I was raised to take charge and lead the clan without ever second-guessing myself, knowing that doing so could be fatal. My whole life had been planned around my station. I never really questioned it until recently. It was always expected of me to follow in the great lineage of chieftains before me, and I was glad to commit myself fully to the clan. Even a mate is supposed to be chosen for me, an augmentation of my power. That never was a problem until Mary came along. I step outside of my office to look for her. It's a beautiful day. From here, I catch the sound of children chattering away in the school building, not so far from mine. That was Mary's idea, to renovate that old structure into something bright and fun for the kids, and the irrigation system for the fields further out. We wouldn't have been able to yield half of the food we can now, thanks to her knowledge, and now we have enough to last the winter. She's done more to help the clan than most, and I screwed it all up. I slept with her. It didn't feel like a mistake when it happened. We both wanted it. I could tell that much. But I was the one that kissed her. I was the one that held on too long. Mary, in return, gave me a taste of what I can't have. A choice. My walk leads me out on a wide path. This isn't my usual pattern, so my clansmen are surprised to see me out and about at this time of day. They wish me well. Some wondering where my secretary has gone because she's usually underfoot, managing my every affair. If you see her, I tell them, you let me know. But no matter how I wander, I don't spot her. She's just gone. It shouldn't bother me, but it's getting under my skin. I resist going to her house for fear of her reaction. Maybe she's upset about what happened between us and needs some space. Did I miss signs these past few weeks that she's been upset? Maybe I did ruin everything. Mary, I lament internally, beautiful, kind, brilliant Mary. Where on earth did you go? I'm almost afraid of the answer. As I walk back to my office, I pace swiftly, each step defiant. When did I become so afraid? I'm an orc, for Pete's sake. I shouldn't be afraid of anything, yet the thought of her contempt fills me with terror. My hands are shaking when I grab the doorknob and slip back into my office, where we have shared so much time together. I took her for granted, assuming she'd always be at my side. If I hadn't been injured, maybe I wouldn't have screwed everything up in the first place. The infection must have reached my brain if I was willing to take that risk, knowing full well that I could never truly have her the way I want to. And still, I'm forced to watch Urish and his mate living in bliss every day. Even my cousin, the indignant Inzo, has his woman. He wanted my title so badly, and still, he had no idea the chains that come with the job. He is free, and they are happy. Even who hated the humans so much, has found love and peace. That's what I want with Mary, and my heart is rent in two. Is this love? I ask myself, feeling for that defiant organ in my chest. It throbs in pain when I think she could be avoiding me. If this is my fault, then I deserve all the pain in the world. But now, the council is on my case, pushing for me to be mated. It's almost as if they're rushing me into it with some urgency. Where was their urgency a year ago? I would have been quite agreeable back then. I try to sit, standing back up immediately to pace. I can't go see her. That would be inappropriate after our brief tryst, not to mention that I am technically her boss as much as her chief. It would confuse her, and I have to draw the line somewhere after I've done so well to muddle it. It's not fair to her, but that's how it has to be because I am the chieftain of the Burning Sun clan and can afford no distractions. Even though I want her, my clan comes first. Then why does it feel so wrong? After a while of pacing and sighing, I realize she is avoiding me. If I weren't surrounded by reminders of her, it wouldn't be so difficult to carry on as if nothing was amiss. I berate myself internally for not noticing sooner the slight shift in her behavior towards me. Ever since that day, nothing's been the same. I grit my teeth and try to focus. This clan needs a leader with a clear head, and it is my duty to provide rational, impartial rulings. It is something only I can do for my people. But what should I do about her? Maybe it's for the best that she's avoiding me. The absence of her is going to hurt, but I'm tough. I've taken more serious injuries and lived. I can survive without her if I must. I flex my back and feel the echo of forgotten pain on my back that had unintentionally united us on the training grounds, and question my resolve. I recall her fingers running through my hair that sent chills down my spine. I remember how sweet her lips tasted, and the sound of her cries when she came in my arms. Can I really give all that up? I have to, I think. I have no other choice. A sudden knock shakes my door, and my heart nearly leaps into my mouth. Could it be? I stand straighter, patting down my rumpled shirt and fiddling with my long braid. Each plait is set perfectly against the next, and I try to focus on their pattern. It can't be her, I assure myself, but there's no way to be certain except to let them in. Take a steadying breath and then another, slowing my wild heart. The knock comes again, and I take my seat with purpose, trying to muster the command of the chieftain I know I am. My fingers can't stop fiddling with my braid, and something is caught in my throat. I clear it, hoping it sounds authoritative, though it's a safe bet it isn't. Where has my nerve gone? I lean back in my seat and do my best to don an impassive look. Come in. Maybe it is her and we can finally clear the air.
Chapter 3. Mary. Take this, Bonnie says, pushing a little tin into my hand. It'll help. I turn it over, the cool aluminum scratched by much use and bare of any identifying markings. What is it? Tea, she says. When I glance up at her with worry, she issues a reassuring smile. It's of the herbal variety. It'll help keep you calm and it's completely safe for the baby. It's the least I can do for now. Try not to worry yourself in the meantime. Easy for you to say, I think. She's a spectator, and when I'm gone she'll go back to her blissful life with Even if she is my cousin, our stories could not be more different. Thank you, I mumble, holding the tin tighter. For everything. Her smile is edged with pity. Call on me if you need anything, Mary. I can only nod. Clutching the tin to my chest, I drift through the settlement towards the privacy of my house. Everything feels unreal. Not so long ago, I was coordinating the efforts to rebuild the school and neck deep in clan business. I know everyone I pass, though they seem so busy with their own affairs, my presence doesn't even faze them. I consider my conversation with Bonnie. At first, I didn't want to tell her for fear of implicating her. I don't want to risk her good fortune. She deserves to be happy after everything she's been through, and my problems are my own. I did this to myself. What should I do? I want to talk to Loki so badly, but it's a selfish desire. I don't want to get in the way of his plans. He's such a responsible orc that I'm afraid it will only complicate matters with the council, and I don't want him dropping everything to take care of me and the child. His clan needs him. I, on the other hand, don't have anyone to turn to, and I can't stand the thought of returning to work like nothing has changed. It was hard enough, after sleeping with him, to pretend like it never happened. I can't bear to face him with these emotions threatening to spill out at every opportunity. Bonnie will keep my secret, She's trustworthy, and that's why I even considered going to her. I thought it would make me feel better, but it has only made me more confused. I don't dare touch my stomach in public, waiting until I slip into my house at the edge of the base before taking an unsteady breath. I'm done crying, I swear to myself, but I break my promise as soon as it's made. Here, at least, I don't have to hide from these emotions hell-bent on tearing me apart. I have a child to worry about. My hands tremble as I prepare the hot water for tea. The little sachets smell wonderful, though I'm not much in the mind to appreciate it. I keep going over everything in miserable silence. How can I possibly tell him? How do I raise a child on my own? How do I explain it to the others when my son or daughter comes out green? And what if they don't? What if they look like a human? So many questions and no answers. I can't imagine returning to my old routine, getting to the office early to organise yesterday's chaos, making coffee for Loki before setting to my own tasks of managing the clan. Those memories only hold pain now, because they will always be coloured by this. I grip my stomach. That grief inside me simmers to a grim realisation. I can't tell Loki. If I hadn't seen the list of available orc women among the clan, I might have considered being more direct. But he has his life spread out before him, one determined by his station. I couldn't forgive myself if I got in his way. The water hisses. I pour myself a cup and set the sachet to steep. The pendulum swings again, and I realise I can't hide the pregnancy forever. If I simply disappear, people will suspect something terrible happened. And if I stay, the truth will eventually come to light, no matter how I might try to conceal it. I'm sorry, I whisper to the spark of creation inside me. I'm so sorry. At least Camille could have her child in the light of day, loved and cherished by the clan. Little Forrest has been a joy, his existence celebrated. What will become of my child? If Loki chooses a mate and they find out that my son or daughter exists, we'd be in danger. My child would be in danger. How could I bring them into a world so hostile? Loki's kind eyes torment me. If he'd only been brusque and aloof, I might never have fallen for him. But that kiss was so authentic, I'd thought, just for a moment, that there was something between us. Damn you, Loki, I think, for making me love you. I take a sip. It's bitter and tastes of roots I can't identify, but soon the herbs soothe my ragged nerves. Bonnie certainly knows her teas. I take another sip, shuffling to the couch where I can rest more comfortably. The tears have long since run dry, leaving a hollow sensation in my chest. I should be thrilled to learn I'll be a parent. But I've never been more miserable. The day slips into evening without my notice as I consider and reconsider again, imagining what Loki's response would be if I fessed up and told him everything. No version of that daydream ends well, and soon I'm staring at the bottom of my empty cup. It's all wrong. I'd imagined I'd find the love of my life before something like this happened. That we'd be hopelessly inseparable like Irish and Camille. If only we could have that, but it's not meant to be. I knew that when I slept with Loki that it was a tenuous arrangement at best. He's the chieftain, for Pete's sake. My skin goes cold as the night deepens, the chill air seeping into my house through the cracks. I need to start a fire to keep warm, but I don't have the energy. That's when my thoughts shift, and my focus drops to my stomach. I might be able to survive the cold, but my comfort isn't just about me anymore. Tears sting my eyes, and I give my best impression of a smile. Here, I've been wallowing all day, and I have something to protect. Someone, I correct internally, rubbing my stomach with renewed endearment. And after hours of sitting in the same spot, I finally rise to care for myself. Loki would never forgive me if I neglected myself or the child. That much I know. It's only for the baby that I go to my room and search for something to snuggle up in. If I cannot lug the wood inside for a fire, then at least I can ward away the cold with a warm blanket. I owe it to the child, if nothing else, to keep their mother healthy and safe. The word mother confounds me. I am a secretary, a manager, an overseer, a friend, a cousin, a lover. But I've never imagined how the new title would fit, if at all. Reality comes crashing in as I sift through the blankets, searching for my favourite throw. When I find it, I test the fuzzy cloth, wondering if the child will like it as well. Is it too soon to wonder such a thing? A soft laugh escapes me. I'm being silly. I'm gathering up the blanket when I hear a terrible crash from the front of my house. It's outside, but it's not like the others to come around this way, so it churns my uneasy gut. I hold my breath and listen hard for any other noise. What was that?
Chapter 4. Loki. I stare diagonally across the table at Elder Hud, who happily eats the meal his wife and niece, Gritaya, have prepared for us. I'm trying not to be rude and eat, but I have no appetite. Gritaya sits directly across from me. She is a very beautiful woman. Beautiful looking, at least. Regal features, a warrior physique. Strong. I've heard she's had many men seek to be bonded with her, but has yet to accept any offers. Being the daughter of the chieftain of the Swordhammer clan makes her a very valuable mate. When I heard she and a Swordhammer hunting party had arrived at the base and Hud invited me to dinner, I knew what his intentions were. He wants me to choose her. She was on the list of potentials I drew up, and I'm sure Hud would love to have a blood relative of his married to the chieftain. But a pleasant body and face just aren't enough for me, nor is her lineage. Even as she attempts to massage my inner thigh with the ball of her foot, I'm supremely uninterested. For one thing, despite her good looks, she just doesn't compare to Mary. I thought Mary was stunning when I met her, but getting to know her accentuated her physical charms. Had Gritaya and I met a year ago, perhaps I would have found this game amusing, or at the very least, been flattered she seemed so interested in measuring the exact dimension of my member with her toes. But where the more I learned about Mary, the more I fell for her. Almost every word out of Gritaya seems handcrafted to make her less appealing to me. Whenever she opens her mouth, nothing but bigoted ignorance and crude innuendo comes spilling out. "How many human slaves do you have on the base?" she asks. "0, I say. "But I saw a whole bunch of humans on my way here. They're everywhere. Are they someone else's?" "We don't force humans into slavery. They are equal citizens here, part of our clan." I try my best to keep the irritation out of my voice. Gritaya isn't the first ignorant orc I've had to deal with, and I doubt she will be the last, so I try to be polite while correcting the misbegotten beliefs many of our people have about humans. I found that I've had better luck with people when I try to be diplomatic first before implementing a raised earth strategy. I attempt to build bridges before burning them, but I have no qualms about setting the fire when necessary. And while Gritaya's presence is trying my patience, it doesn't warrant torching this particular connection. At least not yet. Gritaya laughs like I've just said something funny, and her uncle just chuckles nervously. While he claims to be an ally, his support has always been tepid at best. He has a lot of influence that he's willing to use when it suits him. He was one of the loudest voices for extending forgiveness to the Windcleaver clan after they kidnapped Forrest, the first half-orc/half-human child born on the base, and the son of one of my dearest friends, Yirish, and his mate Camille. While I want to move forward and avoid war as much as possible, it was an egregious act that I couldn't forgive. But he spoke convincingly about maintaining our dedication to stopping the bloodshed between the clans. He has been there almost every step of the way, as I've tried to bring humans into the fold. However, in council meetings, he may voice support for my human-inclusive policies, but folds quickly when there's any pushback, and it seems he's done nothing to correct the ignorance of his niece. "So, Loki, my niece here was on a hunting trip for the Swordhammers," Hud says, changing topics. "But it seems they've run into some trouble with some supplies." "Elder Hud, in the interest of peace, we have taken on many new mouths to feed as of late, and I doubt we could convince people to resupply anyone else in the middle of winter." "I understand, Chieftain, but perhaps if they could stay a while longer in our territory." wait for better weather to travel. Ah, there it is. This is why he invited me for dinner. Here I thought it was just to try to sell me his niece as a possible mate over one evening. The prospect of it already had me thinking his support for my policies had its own agenda. He'd been encouraging her to flirt with me, playing it off like it was all a joke. I don't think it would be wise to do so, I say before turning to Grataya and adding, I hope you understand. But wouldn't a show of good faith make more inroads with the clan? I'm sure this is all an elaborate setup to make an excuse for Grataya to stay on base, longer than is necessary for her to visit family and rest for the night. Getting her to stay longer would give her more time to impress me and make me choose her as a mate. I don't like these games. I like it even less when I'm forced to play along while pretending that I don't know I'm being played, even though they know I know. It's inane and gets in the way of actual governance, but I can't accomplish things without allies, even manipulative ones. So, I decide to give Hud what he really wants and avoid an ugly incident. If her party had one less person in it, would that be enough to make it so they can get home? It would be a stretch, but maybe, says Hud, nodding and smiling at me. Grataya may stay, but only if she's in your charge. I doubt I could contain Irish if I were to invite her whole party. I don't want to cause an incident that might sour the relationship between our clans. What, you can't control your men? Grataya asks. This woman seems determined to make me want to throw her out of here. Irish is charge of our warriors, and we've had some difficulties with territorial disputes with those men. My father assures me that they are just overzealous orcs trying to impress him, Grataya says, sounding defensive. What, your father can't control his men? I say, regretting the words as soon as they pass my lips. It was a cheap shot, but she set it up for me so well, and she's been trying my patience. But from the way her foot has stopped toying with my member, I can tell I've really pissed her off. An unfortunate thing to do immediately after saying she could stay. Then I hear a commotion outside and someone yelling my name. I stand. The voice sounds urgent, but I can't say that I'm sad to have an excuse to end this conversation. Hud stands as well. Grataya just glares at me like I just insulted her father. I open the door to see a soldier running in our direction. Chieftain! There's something happening on the outer edge of the base's northern border. I turn to Hud. Where are the Swordhammers staying? The southern side, Chieftain. If I find out you've invited an attack on our base, Hud, you rest assured Grataya will be gone. I don't care how desperate her situation may be. I assure you this has nothing to do with them, he says. You've become a mind reader? You know their intentions. Hud opens and closes his mouth several times, trying to form words. Never mind. I turn back to the soldier and ask, do we have any details? Only scattered reports of a disturbance and also what? There's a fire at the clinic.
Chapter 5. Mary. I follow the sound of broken glass and splintered wood downstairs and to the kitchen. I'm worried some wild animal might have gotten caught in a window or something. There's a rustling noise, and then I hear what sounds like a grunt. It could be a person. Hello? I step closer to the kitchen, my heart racing. Part of me is saying run, but I'd feel very silly if I ran away, called for help, and some bird had just smashed into my window. I peek around the doorway, only to come face to face, or more face to mask, with an orc dressed head to toe, all in black. Boo! He shouts. I stumble back and see that he's smashed through the kitchen door. I should have just run. Who are you? I scream, hoping I'm loud enough for the neighbours to hear, but I doubt I'd be able to be that loud. I suddenly regret valuing my privacy so much that I took one of the homes in a sparsely populated area on the edge of the base. His hands shoot out, and he shoves me to the ground. My hands instantly go around my belly out of pure instinct. Instead of catching my fall, I slam into the floor. I don't feel like my core is injured. I hope the baby is okay. It's still so early. The fetus is still forming. It's so fragile. I hope the fall doesn't hurt it in any way. The longer I stay here, the more likely that is to happen. I have to protect the baby. To do that, I need to get out of here. I scramble to my feet as I try to run for the front door. I can hear the orc's heavy footfalls behind me, but I don't dare turn around. My hand grabs the doorknob and I turn and pull. But just as the door starts to open, the large, black-gloved hand of the orc slams it shut hard enough to shatter the small pane of glass in the door. I shriek, jerking away from his other hand as he makes a rushed grab for me. My movement throws me off balance, and I slam against the wall. But it's nothing compared to what he'd do to me. I spin my body around and push off the wall, coming almost face to face with him again. "Where do you think you're going?" he taunts. His hand is holding the front door shut, and his body is blocking the way to the kitchen. My only escape route is up the stairs. I know I'll end up equally cornered up there if I'm not careful, but maybe I can buy myself a few precious seconds for someone to hear me as I start screaming, "Help!" Then I turn and run up the stairs, still holding one hand over my belly and screaming at the top of my lungs. Perhaps one of the infrequent guard patrols will happen by. It's a long shot, but I don't have a lot of options, so I have to just hope someone comes to rescue me. It might seem stupid to live this far out, but while the area isn't frequented by guards, the head of security spends most of his time in this section, in the northern guardhouse, which is unfortunately out of shouting range, but I thought it was a good enough deterrent that I wouldn't have to worry about things like this. I guess I was wrong, and I could end up dead for it. So could my baby. Loki's baby. Our baby. I can't let that happen. I run to my room. There's a small ledge off the window. If I can get out there, maybe I could jump. It's dangerous, but it can't be any less dangerous than this orc pounding up the stairs behind me. "Come here, little girl," the orc says. His voice is even. He's not breathing hard at all while it feels like my lungs are burning. It probably helps that he's huge, and although I'm not short, his stride equals nearly 3 of mine. Then he laughs, and I swear I can feel his foul breath on the back of my neck. For a brief second, I think about trying to close my door behind me. Even if I had time to, I doubt the cheap, hollow-core door would do anything to stop him. I just have to get to the window, push it open, and jump. I get to the window and push it open. It swings out easily. Too easily, in fact. I've been meaning to get it fixed, but kept putting it off. Maybe procrastination pays off once in a while. But then, as my feet hit the windowsill, I hesitate, only for a split second. I just wanted to make sure I knew where I'd be landing. But running through the house with all the lights on means my night vision is non-existent, and everything beyond the window is just dark. Of course, tonight would be a new moon and cloudy. Before I can get a chance to leap out into the utter darkness beyond my window, a steel grip clamps around the back of my neck, hauling me back. He slams me into the wall, yelling, "Leaving so soon?" The fun is just about to start. Then he tosses me onto my bed, as though I weigh nothing. The top of my skull cracks against the wooden headboard, and unlike the door, it's solid. My teeth clack together hard, and I see stars for a moment. I don't even have time to move, to roll away before he grabs my ankles and pulls me towards him. "I'm going to have some fun with you. Never had a human woman before. But it seems all the rage on this base," he says, before laughing at my flailing attempts to get away from him while still holding one arm across my belly. "And I figure you have to be extra special if Loki, the high and mighty chieftain of the Burning Sun clan, decided to screw you." The way he says Loki's name and title drips with so much contempt that I almost miss the last part of his statement. How does he know about that? It was sudden, but we were cautious. No one was around. "What? No, we didn't." I try to say more, but his hand clamps over my mouth. "Either way, it wouldn't matter. But I know you're lying. I can see it in your eyes. You're screwing the boss." I keep trying to struggle and manage to get a leg out from under him, and I kick with all my strength. I don't know exactly where I connect. I'm hoping it was right in the manhood. while the grunt from deep in his throat is pained. I doubt I managed to get anything that sensitive. He uses his leg to recapture mine. I like 'em with a little fight in 'em. You're just making it better for me, he growls. I continue to struggle, trying to bite his hand over my mouth. I finally pull my hand off my stomach and try to go for his eyes, but he just bats my hand away and grabs my wrist. I flail my arm around and around, trying to avoid his grasp. It feels pointless, but I refuse to give in without a fight. He grabs my hand, and his whole body presses into me. He's huge and squeezes almost all the air out of my lungs. His body is crushing me. I can't breathe. He's too heavy. I try to scream, even with his hand over my mouth. But I realise I'm going to die here like this. My body goes limp, and then I hear a sound I now know all too well as the sound of someone smashing in a door. Earth is pretty much a desolate wasteland since the orcs came over from Protheka, and being a woman, the best you can hope is to be someone's property. Now, after my curvy body catches Korthar's eye, he'll claim me, and I'll serve him, in any way he pleases.
You're mine now. Listen to this story and more when you get the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka audiobook and ebook bundle.
40 books, 19 audiobooks, 19 ebooks. You even get 1 free novella and 1 free audiobook.
All for a shocking 90% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal, and the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka bundle will bring over 100 hours of that magic to you.
Chapter 6. Loki. I look over the wreckage of what I thought was one of my greatest achievements as chieftain of the Burning Suns clan. The clinic was supposed to be how we learned to survive after our magic weakened. It was supposed to be how we moved forward. But someone doesn't have the vision to understand that this is what we orcs have to do. But this isn't the work of one person. Someone is pulling the strings for sure. This isn't just random mob violence, but a coordinated campaign of terror and destruction. We had to fight our way deep into the city to be able to retrieve some of this equipment. Most of it I can't even begin to understand how it works, but I saw Doc Alvin take a picture of someone's insides using the CT scanner. Or was that called the ultrasound? Is any of this salvageable? I ask Alvin. I try to keep the anger out of my voice. There's no need to direct any of it at the man who's done so much for this community, despite how much some of its members seem to hate him. No such luck. We're going to need a whole new load of equipment. We can pick these clean for replacement parts, but whatever bastards did this was very thorough. Almost nothing in here survived. I've been told by Bonnie that Alvin's use of colorful human profanity around me is a sign he likes me enough to not care if he's less diplomatic around me. He picks up a microscope, and when he shakes it, it rattles. They even managed to destroy some of the basics, things that didn't need electricity to function. I can see it etched into the lines of his face. Alvin is just as angry, if not more, as I am, and is probably struggling just as hard not to take that anger out on the people around him. After the destruction of his home, we'd invited his people here, offering them a better life than they could have expected after raiders destroyed everything. To him, this must feel all too familiar. I have a sinking feeling when I remember what he told me of the raid on his bunker. Your books, did they? Luckily, the books survived. They stayed out of the offices mostly. They went after the equipment. Damn Luddites. I have no idea what a Luddite is, but I don't have the patience to care. Speaking of electricity, Alvin says, did they do anything to the solar panels? No, those are fine. Well, I guess I'm glad these dumb bastards hate human technology so much they never bothered to learn enough to really screw us over. It had been my plan to show off the upgraded facility to the clan and show them how this technology could be used to strengthen our clan. I guess I should consider myself lucky that I never got the chance. Alvin, along with some of the other humans we brought on board, were still explaining it all to me. These were people who knew how to fix these machines, but I thought it would be best if the information came out of the mouth of a fellow orc. I knew there'd be resistance to embracing humans and working together, but I never anticipated it would get this bad. Who the hell would do this? Why take this risk just to spit in the face of our mutual cooperation? Whoever did it is a dangerous mix of bravery and ignorance. At first I thought it was Orc who was behind all this, but he rushed into battle when this pack of traitors poisoned a bunch of orcs, causing them to go berserk in the training yard. The injury he sustained there almost cost him his arm. If not for Alvin and Bonnie, Orc would have been lucky to survive. But he didn't expect them to heal him. I don't think he'd have been so quick to jump into battle like that if he'd been the one to poison the orcs. Orc has become more withdrawn since the fight, and I haven't seen much of him lately. I look at the microscope that Alvin lets fall from his hand onto the floor. That was the microscope that allowed Bonnie to first detect the poison in the blood of the first victim, Malthu. Then they used it again while developing a cure for the madness-causing concoction, and the people behind it all smashed the tools used to stop them. All right. I want this entire place searched for any clues to the identity of whoever did this, I say to the guards gathered around me. I want them found so that I may sentence them to a punishment befitting such an ignorant crime. Everyone just stares at me. With a furious scream, I slam my fist into the wall, cracking the mortar and tile. Move! I order, and people finally take heed. Loki, I think it's time to calm down a little, Hud says. I don't know when he decided to show up. I whirl on him, ready to tell him where he can stick his opinion, but standing just behind him is Grataya, and it brings me up short. I really wish he hadn't brought her here. Not just to the clinic, but to the base at all. She makes everything more complicated. Perhaps we can work together to plan another retrieval mission in the city and replace all the broken equipment, Hud suggests. A bit too cheerful about it, as though it were so easily done. It took weeks of planning to do this, and transporting everything had been a logistical nightmare. I take a deep breath, forcing down my urge to explode and say something that I will later regret. We will have to. Thank you. I'd appreciate the assistance. I don't know if I want him anywhere near this. When we do this next time, I don't know if I'm going to want anyone but my most trusted allies to know about it. There's too much betrayal, and it feels like planning with someone like Hud would just lead to more disasters. Why bother? Grataya says, sounding indignant as her eyes survey the wreckage. This is all useless human junk anyway. We've survived fine without it before. I feel the heat in me rising. This is the woman they expect me to take as a mate. Her ignorance is willful and entrenched. She has no idea what it took to accomplish all this in the first place, and how much it saved my clan. Of course, it looks like junk right now because it's all been smashed to pieces, I can feel the words I want to say to her, bubbling up inside me. None of it would be in any way helpful to the situation at hand. I know that. Hud would perhaps object to the things I would like to call his niece. But the longer I stand there, the less I care. I can't stomach these people anymore. They represent the least venerable parts of our past. I'm trying to take my people into the future. I let out a heaving breath, realizing I'm so angry I'd forgotten how to breathe. I turn and head for the door, but I can hear the crunch of footsteps behind me. It's Hud and Grataya following me. No, I need to keep my own counsel right now. I don't even attempt to hide my anger. Why bother? The two stop dead in their tracks, and I stare them down until Hud bows. I don't even bother waiting on anything else they might have to say. I just leave. I need to see Mary. The thought rises unbidden to the forefront of my mind. The world seems more right when she's around. Perhaps a visit with her will give me the strength required not to strangle people who share ill-timed counsel. But should I go see her?
Chapter 7. Mary. I don't think I can yell. He's so heavy. I try, but I can't breathe in enough air. Between his body weight and the hand over my mouth, I'm suffocating. But luckily, I don't have to scream for help. I hear footsteps pounding up the stairs. I hope it's the guards or someone from the base. For a brief, horrifying moment, I think it could be more men like him. But with a final violent shove, he pushes himself off of me. I can finally breathe again. Rolling away from him, I cower near the headboard with my hands and arms covering my head and stomach. Then he turns and leaps out the window, just before bursts in. He looks around the room just as Bonnie comes in behind him. I try to tell him where the attacker went, but I'm still gasping for air. Looks out the window, and he must see something because his hands go to the windowsill, and it looks like he's ready to hop out after him. But then Bonnie screams, "No!" Stops and looks back at her, confusion and frustration darkening his expression. "We need you here in case they or someone else comes back." Bonnie comes up to me, approaching slowly. "Mary, are you okay?" Even though he's gone, it starts to feel like there's that same weight on my chest again, crushing the air out of me. It hurts to breathe. "Mary, what happened?" I could tell her. Every detail of it is burned into my mind, the cruel look in his eyes, the words he said as he taunted me and threatened me. I open my mouth to speak, but nothing comes out but a sob, and then I can't stop. During it all, I never shed a tear. But now that it's over and I'm safe with Bonnie and I can't stop them. Bonnie gingerly checks me over, but I push her hands away. The last thing I want is to be touched right now. "Mary, I'm sorry, but I need you to calm down. I need to examine you." I can't. I can't calm down. I can't stop crying. I can't let her touch me. "Did anything happen to the baby?" Suddenly things snap back into focus for me. I have to get my life together for the baby. "Tell me what happened," she says. "I heard a noise in the kitchen. It was so stupid to go looking, but I thought an animal had crashed into my window or something. And he was..." I suck in a deep breath and then swallow down the tears I feel preparing to spill out from me. If I start crying, I don't know if I'll be able to stop again. "He was in the kitchen. He broke down my door. He shoved me to the ground. I got up and tried to run to the front, but he blocked the door. I ran up here. I was going to jump out the window to escape, but he grabbed me, slammed me against the wall, and threw me on the bed. I hit my head, and then he tried. He was on top of me. I was struggling, and it felt like he was going to crush me to death." "That's it. He's dead," says, grabbing the window ledge and preparing again to leap out into the night. Both Bonnie and I start begging him not to. "I can't just let him get away with this," he says. "I need you here," Bonnie says. "I need you to keep an eye out for anyone while I examine Mary and see if it's safe to move her." Looks from Bonnie to me and back again. "Okay, I'll stay," he says. He lets go of the window ledge but doesn't turn away from it. "Do you think you have a concussion?" Bonnie asks. "I don't think so," I answer. "What hurts the most?" "My waist and ribs." Bonnie gingerly lifts my shirt to examine me better. I wince and look down at myself. Dark bruises are already blooming all over me. I look up to see is watching out the window, purposefully not looking at me while I'm feeling very exposed. He's a good guy. Then I realise didn't seem at all shocked about hearing the word baby. "Did you tell him?" I whisper to Bonnie. "We can discuss it later," she says as she gently prods a bruise above my hip. "Does this hurt?" "Yes, I can't believe you told him." Bonnie sits up, letting my shirt fall back down. I tried not to, but he could tell something was bothering me, and he wouldn't stop asking what was wrong. "I'm sorry I was concerned about my mate," says. "I'd almost be upset about him listening in on the conversation, if not for the fact the room was too small to expect him not to hear us, especially as he was probably listening to everything in case there was any more danger. And I appreciate that, but it would have been nice if you could accept, 'I'm okay, and believe me,'" Bonnie says, and then turns back to me. "He wanted to tell Loki." She must have seen the fear in my eyes because she immediately adds, "But I told him he should give you the chance to do it yourself." "What?" Why do you think it's your responsibility to talk to Loki in the first place? I ask in something close to a shout. He's my friend. He will do the right thing if you just give him a chance. He'll take responsibility for his child, and if he didn't, which is a very, very remote possibility, then I'd string him up myself. No, don't tell Loki, don't do anything. Okay, then you'll do it, says. Bonnie shouts. You said to give her a chance to do it first. I'm giving her a chance. He deserves to know he has a kid on the way. You said we could talk about it. And that's what we were going to do when we got here. But then we heard you scream and came running. I'm pissed that Bonnie betrayed my trust like that. I didn't want anyone to know, but I try to focus on the fact that it's the only reason they're here. I still need to figure things out before I talk to Loki, I say. He deserves to know so he can take care of you. If you don't, I will. It won't even matter if I lose the baby, I scream at him. All his bluster goes right out of him. Let's get you someplace safe and we can do a better examination. Not the clinic. I don't want anyone else to know I'm pregnant, I say. Besides Uncle Alvin, I don't say. He's kept my secret best of all after he confirmed it for me. The clinic Bonnie trails off, and it looks like she's ready to cry. What happened? I ask. Let's get moving and I'll tell you on the way. I try to take a step, but everything hurts too much. Can I carry you? Asks. I can tell he's still pissed at me. I'm still pissed at him, but not too proud to accept his help. Okay, I say. Picks me up carefully. Is this all right? He asks after adjusting his hold on me. Yeah. I hang on his neck, trying not to smear snot on his chest as he carries me down the stairs. I say softly. I won't say anything, for now, but you have to tell him. He already knew what I was going to say. I can't tell if I want to be more mad at him or grateful to him at the moment. When we get to the front door, a patrol team is just walking onto the front porch. What happened? They ask. I want to scream, but instead I just start crying. I hope Bonnie or can explain because I can't do it again.
Chapter 8. Loki. The desperate need to see Mary has taken root in my heart, but I don't know what to do. The chieftain in me knows that I should tell her that it was all a mistake and that it cannot and will not happen again. I have a duty to my people, a role to fulfill, a destiny. But I'm not just a chieftain, I'm also a man, and the man in me is the one that burns for her. He's weaker. He wants her and is willing to do almost anything to have her. To serve her chieftain, she just needs to go back to doing what she'd been doing before, and she did a spectacular job. She anticipated my needs and was dedicated to the job of helping our clan survive. The man wants to hold her close and hear the delightful sound she makes when she reaches her peak. The man wants to taste her again. For most of my life, except our original indiscretion, the chieftain has won out. Now, I'm not so sure. I must choose a path. One or the other. Things might not be as bad if Irish or hadn't been caught up with human women, but now the elders worry all our most powerful clan members are taking human mates. And so, as chieftain, I made a vow that I'd be bonded to an orc woman, and that would be it. As chieftain, I can't go back on that. But I think of Mary and all I want is to be with her. I know I must make a choice, but I don't know which. The chieftain usually wins, but perhaps the man has grown tired of all the sacrifices, especially when they seem to be so unappreciated. I'm still feeling bitter about the clinic. I'm too riled up, too exhausted to make a choice. So instead, I go home. Or try to, at least. Halfway between my home and my office, a group of soldiers run up to me. An orc who looks far too young to be leading the others says, "Sir, we have a problem. There's been another attack." I clench my fist and stop myself from screaming to the gods that I need more time to deal with one disaster before they hand me 2 or 3 more. "Who? Where?" I ask. We don't know the identity of the attacker. He escaped. The victim? Who was attacked? Oh, sorry, sir. He was going after Miss Homer. I should have seen our tryst coming. Mary and I had already been growing familiar. It's been so long since I called her by her last name that I almost have to ask them who they're talking about. My heart leaps into my throat. Take me there, I say, already running. It's more like I'm taking them. Is she okay? Yes, sir, she's safe. At least there is that small blessing. If someone had hurt her, I don't know what I would do. I try to pretend that it's a chieftain's concern for someone in his clan. I should feel this anger if anyone in my clan is hurt, and I try to tell myself I would be. But the lie is thin, and I know it's the man that is most concerned for her. I'd be angry if anyone in my clan was attacked. As of late, I've had far too many times to feel that fury, but it's never felt this close. I think I'm going to go insane if this keeps up. It's been one crisis after another, and now Mary is involved. Do we know what happened? I ask. We're still gathering details, but someone forced their way into her house through her kitchen and attacked her. Was she injured? Not badly, I believe. When we get to her house, the stab of guilt I've been feeling turns into a twisted knife. I see the disarray her home is in. The kitchen door splintered where it was forced open, and things were thrown to the floor. Even before what happened between us, I'd gotten to know Mary. She'd be appalled by this mess, and I feel like I'm invading her privacy. It seems a silly concern compared to everything else. But what makes it so hard is the realization I could have stopped this. If I had come earlier, she could have been the one to invite me in. I could see her house the way it was meant to be seen. And I could have been here when someone forced their way into her home. I may not be completely healed from my injury. The wound from the battle at training grounds was deep, and it still pains me some, but I would have been more than capable of defending her. The thought leaves my mouth tasting of bitter bile. If I'd been brave enough to choose one path, to be the chieftain or the man, none of this would have happened. I'd either have gone to tell her we can't be together or been with her. Being together. We follow the trail of destruction up the stairs to her bedroom. The door swings open, and I see the rumbled sheets, and I feel like I'm going to be sick. I turn to the young soldier. When you said she was attacked, what did you mean? He looks confused for a moment and then sees the bed. Oh, I don't know all the details, sir, but I don't know. I didn't know burning anger and cold dread could coexist in one man at the same time, but it's a fact I'm unfortunately learning. I cling to the fury. I feel like I can at least make something of it. Soldiers! I bark, and they all snap to attention. You are going to find this person. I'm done playing games with whoever has been trying to tear our clan apart. I watch their eyes as I say this, looking for any hint of disloyalty. I hate that recent events have made me so distrustful, but that's something to deal with later. Right now, I have different priorities. You will search every part of this base and the surrounding area for this attacker, and I swear as your chieftain, whoever finds him and brings him to me will be richly rewarded. Bring him to me alive. I want to question him. I want to know who's behind this. While technically accurate at that moment, my biggest concern wasn't unraveling the dissident element within the clan, but returning every hurt done to Mary tenfold to her attacker. Is that clear? I ask. Yes, sir. They all answer in almost perfect unison. Spread the word. Find him. A few guards and soldiers are still in a room, looking for any clue that could lead them to the attacker. I eye them each in turn, trying to gauge if they want peace with the humans or if they sympathize with the clan's internal enemy. But if I could see disloyalty, I would have gotten to the bottom of this long ago. I don't think I'm going to be the one to spontaneously solve this mystery tonight. Where's Mary now? I ask the remaining orcs. A tall, lanky orc with a nose that's been broken one too many times stands from his position, crouched on the floor, and then says, I was one of the first people here. Bonnie and were with her. She left with them. Back to their house, I believe. Thank you, I say, already turning and bounding down the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. I burst out the front door at a run. I have to see Mary and make sure she's okay. And I won't dishonor my feelings for her by thinking it's just because I'm the chieftain. I may not be able to act on those feelings again, but denying them doesn't make this situation any better.
Chapter 9. Mary. Are you sure? I ask Bonnie. He's a doctor. You got to know him as family first, but he takes his profession seriously. He won't tell anyone anything about your medical history if you don't want him to. And I'm worried about you. That bruising looks bad. If we had the clinic equipment, I'd be a bit more confident in diagnosing it. But Grandpa has decades of experience, and most of it was done without access to equipment. Bonnie wants Uncle Alvin to look at me. But I'm still not convinced. I haven't admitted that Uncle Alvin knows, but I fear the rumours that will spread of a doctor coming to see me in the middle of the night. I need to avoid all suspicion until I know what I am going to do. She's already told about the baby, which I'm still annoyed about, even though it's sort of worked out. But now I have to tell Loki or going to do it. This has all become so messy and complicated, and I'm tired and sore, and everything feels really intense. So much so that I'm having trouble distinguishing between what is a reasonable level of anxiety and what is the fact that being pregnant has my hormones going crazy. Though I know I'm justified in being scared of the attack, I should probably defer to Bonnie's medical opinion. We're both intelligent, but this is her area of expertise. She knows enough to know when to call for help, and I should be able to play this off like a routine checkup after an attack. In reality, I'm terrified about my baby. I breathe out a sigh, wincing slightly at the pain, and say, "Okay." "I'll go get him," she says, turning to leave. I grab her wrist. "Wait, shouldn't I just come with you? What if that orc comes after me again?" Bonnie brushes my cheek. "Mary, is here. Whoever they were would have to be insane to come after you in this house. And if they were insane enough to try, my husband is more capable of protecting you from any attacker than I would be. Just stay here. I'll get Grandpa and—" "Don't tell him it's Loki's," I say quickly. I left that part out before. I won't tell him who the father is, but it might help if he knows the father is an orc. He's delivered more orc babies than I have, and might notice something I missed. "But who else would he think the father is?" I ask. It's not like I have a lot of free time to socialise with orc men. If Grandpa is in doctor mode, even if he suspects it's Loki, he won't say a word. "Okay, you're right, and the baby's health is more important than the secret anyway. Just, we won't say any names, okay?" "I'll tell him to skip the father questions," she says. I release her hand and wait, lying in bed, feeling pretty miserable about everything. A few moments later, Uncle Alvin is there, and I really can't believe how unlike himself he is when he's being a doctor. Bonnie talked about how good his bedside manner was before, but seeing it is another thing entirely. He's like a completely different person as he examines me and asks me questions. "Does it hurt when I press here?" he asks, pushing on my abdomen. "A little? On a scale from 1 to 10? 4 maybe, nothing worse than period cramps. Good. Optimally, I'd give you an ultrasound, but that's not an option anymore. But I believe you and the baby are fine. But keep an eye out for severe cramping or bleeding. Bed rest. Relax. Try not to stress." "Thank you," I say. "You're welcome. Don't hesitate to get me if you do get cramping or bleeding." He nods to Bonnie and leaves the room. When the door closes behind him, there's a moment of silence before I say, "Okay." That was weird. "What?" Bonnie asks, concern darkening her expression. Several sentences from him without profanity. Bonnie laughs. "What did I tell you? A totally different man. Do you need anything?" "I think I'm good for right now. I'm just going to rest like he said." "Good." Bonnie bends down and kisses my forehead. And I will be just out in the living room if you need anything." I settle into bed and try my best to relax. and it's probably no more than a minute before I start to feel drifty, like I might be able to fall asleep soon when I'm distantly aware there's knocking. It sounds urgent, but I'm not supposed to stress. Bonnie and will answer it. If they need me, they'll get me. The door opens, and I hear a familiar voice. "Where is she?" asks Loki. I sit up in bed, suddenly the furthest thing from sleepy. "Keep your voice down," Bonnie says, even as her volume matches his. "She's resting. Doctor's orders." There's more talking, but their voices are more hushed, and I can't hear. I sneak over to the door. Bonnie left it open just a crack, and through it, I see Loki standing in the entrance. All I can really see are his feet, and my mind fills in the rest because is blocking the hallway, not letting Loki into the main part of the house. "I need to see her," he urges. "I'm sure you think you do, but she's resting," says harshly. "Can you at least ask if she'll see me? You need to—" stops when Bonnie puts her hand on his arm. "I'll go check," Bonnie says. She turns, and I take a step back far enough so that when she opens the door, there's no chance Loki could see me, even if weren't blocking his way. When Bonnie's eyes meet mine, I shake my head no. I just don't think I should right now. I'm too anxious, and while part of me desperately wants to talk to him, the thought of it stresses me out more than the anxiety of waiting. She backs out and closes the door, this time all the way. I press my ear to the door, still listening in. She's resting, almost asleep, and she really needs that right now. If you care for her at all, you'll leave and do so quietly. I feel more than hear growl. Then there's a moment of silence, and even though it's not with my eyes, I can see the stare down between the two men. They're both very intense in their own ways. "Just tell her I stopped by, and I would like to speak with her, and that I hope she recovers quickly." "I will," Bonnie says. I hear the door open, and then Bonnie calls out, "Loki, wait!" Grumbles, and Bonnie says, "I'll just be a minute." I open the door a crack, just in time to see her step outside. I dash over to the window, and I can see them standing in the street from my angle. I suddenly wish I could read lips because I can't even hear Bonnie's voice at all. I have no idea what she's saying. I know the expression on Loki's face. I've seen it whenever he's faced with a tough choice, and he's weighing his options. Bonnie can't be telling him about the baby, can she? She wouldn't do that. She's probably talking about the clinic and all the destroyed equipment. I hope so, at least. As I stare at Loki, wishing I could read his mind, it's like he feels me watching him, because he turns and looks at the window. I shrink back and close the curtain. I didn't want him to see me. Maybe he didn't. I take a deep breath and slowly pull the curtain back open, but now all I can see is his back as he walks away, with his shoulders slumped. I did the right thing, I tell myself, so that I won't run out the door and go to him. I can't talk to him until I've cleared my head, otherwise I'm going to make this situation worse than it already is.
Chapter 10. Loki. I sit across the street from house, staring at the window I saw Mary's face in yesterday. I've been sitting here since late last night, and the sun is starting to creep its way up the sky. I couldn't sleep and went for a walk, but no matter what street I took, they all seemed to lead me here, like some unseen force was pulling me here. And now that I'm this close, the thought of being any further from Mary turns my feet into lead. People go about their day, most taking no notice of me as I sit on a bench, statue still, waiting. I hope to see Mary, but she doesn't even go to the window. It's close to mid-morning when a few soldiers come by. "Sir, we've been looking for you. No one was at your office," one of them says. "Consider the office closed today," I grumble. "But sir, did I stutter? Were there any words I used that weren't in your vocabulary? The office is closed today." Looks like he wants to say something else to me. To object maybe to my dereliction of duties. Still, I'm sure the death glare I give him is enough to dissuade him from talking anymore. "Yes, sir," he says, and then they all turn and leave. I haven't moved from my spot when an hour later, Irish approaches and sits down next to me. "Rumor has it you're avoiding work today," my friend says. "I'm just concerned about Mary," I answer. "You heard about the attack, right?" "Yes." "But she's staying with Bonnie and Bonnie's a healer, and is a warrior. If anything ever happens to me, I can't think of two people I'd rather have watching over Camille and Forrest." I'm not sure if Irish's comparison of Camille and Mary is purposeful or just meant to calm me. Does he know about what happened between Mary and me? I suppose I'm not being too subtle about it, planting myself so near her like this, but I can't figure out how someone might have suspected something before enough to target Mary. Or did they go after her just because she was professionally close to me? Does attacking her make me look weak? I'm so lost in my own head I don't realize that Wyrish is still speaking to me. "Sorry, what was that?" "Exactly," he says with a smirk. "No. Really, what were you saying?" "You seem like you're really off your game lately. Is everything okay?" He's kidding, right? "Oh yeah, sure. It's not like there isn't someone trying to drive a wedge between the humans and the orcs on this base, or that I've got to constantly worry about someone poisoning the water with something that makes people go crazy, or that a mob destroyed the clinic I and so many others worked so hard to build. Obviously, you've got a lot on your plate at the moment, but when has that not been the case? You've been chieftain for a few years now, and apprenticing beneath your father your whole life. There's always been something. I just wonder what's up with this particular set of somethings that has you like this. Perhaps a man can only take so much before he needs a break." Camille comes walking down the street carrying their child. "Hello, Loki. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to steal Yirish back for a bit." "It's fine," I say. Yirish nods and then leaves with his mate. I see several times as I sit and wait. He doesn't seem interested in talking to me, and for some reason he looks at me like I'm a disappointment. I think he judges me for how I first failed Bonnie and now Mary. Or at least I hope that's it. I don't know what Mary has said. We never really talked after what happened, and I don't know if she might have said something, and now judges me for taking advantage of an employee, but all I can do is guess. When I try to approach he just says he's busy. It's just past midday when I hear a cough beside me and turn to see several elders. I'm not sure if they sought me out unprompted, or if one of the soldiers told them where I was and that they should come to retrieve me. If so, I may have to put that little band of soldiers on latrine duty for a while. I doubt Yirish or would go tattle on me. "Loki, we understand that you have concerns for your secretary," says Hud, "but we're sure can handle watching over her. There are duties that need attending to. As chieftain, it's your responsibility. Don't think to lecture me about my responsibilities. I'm well aware of what they are. Need I remind you I'm chieftain and have been chieftain for years now?" "Yes, we understand. It's just there are some urgent matters to attend to." I stand, and Hud backs away. Is my frustration so evident that my standing up looks like I'm ready to attack him? "Very well, I'll be in my office," I say before turning to walk away. Though, when I get to my office, I end up not getting much work done because I can't stop thinking about Mary. I call Xenon in for a meeting. "I need you to watch over Mary, and I want you to direct the Shades to find this orc that attacked her." The base had its guards, but they are a very public organization and have more rules to follow. The Shades work in secret to carry out the chieftain's wishes, and have done so since before the Great Rift. I had some misgivings when I learned of their existence the day I became chieftain, surprised that my father kept that hidden from me for so long, but I can't deny their effectiveness. "And the people I have surveilling Orc?" he asks. I'm really starting to doubt that he had anything to do with the attacks. And right now, his general inclination to undermine me can take a back seat. We need to get to the bottom of this, and I think finding the attacker is our best bet. "I will carry out your wishes, sir. But I must ask, What makes you think capturing him will be different from the ones that attacked Bonnie? He'll have seen what happens to those who work against the clan and do not seek forgiveness. And I'm far less likely to let his death be swift. I'm sure I can get him to talk. Very well, sir. Zenon turns and walks out the door. He's a good soldier. He carries out his orders, but doesn't do so blindly. He seeks out information first. He was head of the Shades when I became chieftain, and I'm sure he'll remain long after I'm gone. I do wonder just how much he knows at times. Does he know about Mary and me? Again, I curse myself for not being very subtle about things, but I feel like I can't afford to play coy about this after she's been attacked. If I'm to get anything done, I need to be able to concentrate. I can't do that if I'm constantly worried about what will happen to Mary. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Malthu! I bellow after Xenon leaves. The orc steps in. What can I do for you, sir? Malthu had been out of commission for a while after he was the first victim poisoned with the madness-inducing drug. He lost his employment, so I gave him a new position. He's done a great job as a guard and, hopefully temporarily, secretary. Call Elder Hud and let him know I wish to speak with him. Will do, he says, closing the door behind him. I take a deep breath. I must deal with Hud, but I don't wish to. But when you're chieftain, your wishes don't matter. What matters is the clan. I'm so exhausted.
Chapter 11. Mary. Did you talk to Loki today? Asks as we eat dinner. Has asked me every day for the past 4 days if I talked to Loki. He said he wouldn't tell Loki I was pregnant as long as I did it myself. After that first day, when Loki showed up, I thought he'd come to talk to me again, but he hasn't. The morning after, told me Loki was waiting on a bench across the street, and I should go talk to him. By the time I worked up the courage to strap on my snow boots and go outside, he was gone. I haven't seen him since. I want him to show up. Ask how I'm doing, and I can tell him. If I have to walk all the way to his office, or worse still, his home, I know that I'll chicken out before I get there. I have the resolve for a 10-foot journey from my room to the living room. I don't think I could make it 10 minutes outside before my doubts consumed me. And each day, after asks if I've spoken to Loki, Bonnie has answered for me. It's always been some variation on, she'll tell him when she's ready, just be patient. Though tonight, Bonnie only glares at him a little but says nothing. I haven't yet, I answer. Huh, grunts, and I'm not sure what to do now. I'm glad Bonnie has let me stay with them, but I can't tell if I've started to wear out my welcome or if something else is going on. There's been a bubbling tension in the air. I thought at first that it was just impatient with me for not telling Loki right away. I really wish Bonnie hadn't said anything to him, but I don't know if I can blame her. Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut about the father. If I were a slightly different person, I don't know, might have bought me some time, but Bonnie would have seen through that. The situation is just totally messed up, and I can't figure out how to extricate myself from it. But now it feels like Bonnie is keeping something from me. Something's changed. After dinner, I help Bonnie clean up. Washing dishes together, she seems tense. I finally can't stand it anymore. Okay, what's wrong? I ask. What do you mean? Don't play dumb, Bonnie. You're too smart to pull it off well. Something has changed. Am I causing problems between you and What? No. He's grumpy, but that's not a huge hurdle. Do I need to leave? No. We both want you to get better and be safe. So then what is up with you? Because all I can think is that I'm ruining your marriage. It's not that. Then what? I snap. Is everything okay? Says, poking his head into the kitchen. Everything's fine, Bonnie and I say in unison, with the same inflection. We really are related. We both end up laughing as walks away. But then when the giggles settle, I look at Bonnie again. I'm not letting this go, I say. Mary, I didn't want to tell you because you've got enough on your plate as is, with just trying to get better. Grandpa said it was best if you avoid stress. At this point, not knowing what's going on is more stressful than anything else. Okay, let's have a seat, she says, drying her hands on a towel. Is it that bad? Just tell me. Standing next to me, Bonnie clears her throat and says, It seems that Loki has agreed to go through the bonding ceremony with Grataya, Hud's niece. She winces like the words pain her. And perhaps they do, because to me it feels like someone just plunged a knife into my chest. I feel like all the strength flow out of me all at once, and I almost collapse. Luckily, Bonnie is there to catch me. Maybe I should have sat down first, I say weakly. Why does this hurt so much all of the sudden? The situation I'm in is so screwed up. I can't stand it. I start to feel like the room is spinning. Bonnie calls. Can I get a hand? Is there in a moment, and I feel him lifting me. Take her to the bed, I hear Bonnie say, but her voice sounds distant, far more distant than height would explain. It's like my world is surrounded by a fog, and everything is having trouble getting through. It's not that I didn't know Loki was looking for a mate, for a political alliance, but that was before that night he kissed me. And now I'm pregnant with his child. Did I take too long to tell him? I thought I was doing the right thing at first, waiting. But then waiting just led to more waiting. But would it really have been all the different if I had told him? Sure, convinced Loki is the kind of guy who would step up and be a father to his child. But could he afford to? With the way everything is going, it was a silly, stupid fantasy. All the doubts and excuses and reasons I kept using to stop myself flood in all at once. It was one night that we never mentioned again, like it didn't happen. He was ashamed of what he did. Ashamed of me. Loki is trying to do good, and if his enemies found out, they would use this against him, and it would put all the humans here in danger. We wouldn't have grown so close if he hadn't been injured. He was hurt and vulnerable, needed to feel like a man, and I was convenient. And every other awful thing I told myself about my self-worth or Loki's motivation just makes me feel sick. Thank you, Bonnie says. I think she's talking to I'm barely aware of him leaving the room and closing the door behind him. I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you because I knew it would upset you. Bonnie brushes her hand over my forehead and down along my hair. I wish I was better at hiding my emotions or what I'm thinking. Are you going to be okay? I blink at her for a second. Obviously, the answer is no, right? But none of this is her fault, and I'm just sucking the energy out of her. I want to be left alone. I'll be okay. I think I'm just tired now. I'm just going to try to go to sleep. Are you sure? She asks. Sometimes I wish she wasn't so concerned. Yeah, I say before yawning. I'm just so tired lately. That's a pregnancy thing, right? Totally normal. Bonnie laughs, stroking my hair again. Yeah, growing another human is hard work. You go to sleep. Okay. I yawn again and then turn away from her as I curl into the blankets. I hear the door close behind me. Then I bury my face in a pillow and the sobs start. I can't control them anymore. I barely made it this long. It feels like my heart is broken into a million pieces, but I can't show Bonnie. Despite what she says, I know my presence here must be causing tension between her and I can't burden her with my sadness, because I know she'd take it all on without complaint. But she's already overburdened with her own life. People who've tried to kill her, the vandalism at the clinic, all of it. She doesn't need another thing to worry about, like her silly little cousin who got knocked up because she was careless. But what are the baby and I going to do now? I wrap my arms around my belly and cry myself to sleep.
Prothika is a dark and dangerous world.
My parents sold me to the dark market.
I am the avatar of chaos. and nothing will stop me from fulfilling the prophecy.
And the quest for godhood has made it even darker.
Looks like you're the only one left. Take a step forward.
Delia only seeks her freedom,
A gilded cage is still a cage.
but Thorn has something else in mind for her.
It's her. She's the woman from the prophecy. My key to godhood.
Will they be able to escape their fate? Get every episode from worldsofprothika.com right now. Get the series bundle and score a 70% discount. Prothika's magic is eternal, and this series is just the beginning.
Chapter 12. Loki. What have you found? I asked Xenon. We are still chasing down some promising leads, sir. While we haven't managed to track the attack to the source, the Shades have figured that the attack on Mary was orchestrated based on a rumor of an affair between the two of you. Xenon is deadpan, a stone-faced relic of some bygone era. I don't know how much he does or doesn't know about Mary and me. He always seems to know so many things. I wouldn't be surprised if he knew precisely how accurate the rumors were. But he says it as though it's pure speculation and not confirmed at all by the measures I've taken to protect her. I like to think he's a good man because gods help us all if he isn't. Anything else? I ask. News of your engagement to Grataya is spreading fast. I clench my fist, swallowing down my anger. I've had a dozen people congratulate me even though I've made no formal announcement. And she was waiting to see you. I passed her on the way in. She didn't look happy that I was allowed to see you first. Thank you for the warning. You're welcome, sir. I hope my next report will come with more solid answers as to who is behind the attacks. I nod, and Xenon turns and leaves. No sooner has he opened the door than Grataya is pushing past him into my office. She sneers at Xenon like he's something foul she stepped in. I can't believe you kept me waiting to meet with him, she says, before the door is even fully closed behind her. What does that creepy little bastard do around here anyway? It's nothing you need to worry about. There shouldn't be secrets between mates, Loki. Her voice is already grating. We aren't mated, I remind her. Not formally. And I'm sure we could take care of the less formal parts in a few minutes if you'd make time for it, she says, gesturing to her body. Grataya is a fine-looking woman, and I'm sure many orc men would crawl over mithril caltrops to be with her, but the thought of taking her to my bed holds no appeal to me. My duties require all my time and energy right now, and until the ceremony is complete, you aren't a chieftain's mate yet, and therefore some things must remain unsaid until then. Fine. Keep your secrets. I watch her as she prances about my office, looking at everything like she has any idea what it's all about. I wish she'd sit still for a damn minute. Was there anything else I could help you with? I ask, trying my best to be polite and calm with her. Things have been tense between the Burning Suns and the Swordhammers. I need this alliance. While for a long time, far too many orcs thought of war as pure glory, it's always been in times of peace that our people have made the most growth. Peace between our clans would give me more resources to focus on strengthening my clan by learning from the humans. Technology is the way to go. I've been going around the base, taking notes of several areas we could improve upon once our clan's relationship has been formally cemented, of course. I have a list. She puts a piece of paper on my desk. Not in the nice inbox Mary set up for me, but right in the center on top of the crop, yield numbers I was going over. I'm guessing she expects me to look at it right now. I sigh and pick up the paper. The first thing on the list talks about tearing down some buildings to make room for a formalized fighting ring. Gladiatorial combat. Things I'm trying to bring my people away from. I look over the location she has listed. You want to tear down the clinic and put in something that will cause more injuries? I say, raising an eyebrow. Why would you waste resources on the injured? If they're strong, they'll survive. If not, they hold us back. The skin along my back prickles and the wound aches. The clinic has saved lives. Grataya just sneers at the response, only some of which were worth saving at all. And besides, with all the equipment destroyed, it's just a useless building anyway. You also have the new school listed here for destruction. What's wrong with how we've taught our children since our people were still on Protheca? Well, for one, there are things about this world we need to learn. I'm starting to struggle to keep the irritation out of my voice. I looked at her list again. You want to redirect the water from our irrigation of crops to livestock? Our people eat meat. If we aren't going to hunt for it, which we should be doing more of, then we should be raising it ourselves, not growing plants. We still have plenty of meat in our diets, and we've always been hunters, gatherers. Raising livestock and farming just makes that easier. Plants use less water for the same amount of food. We have a lot of mouths to feed. She scoffs again, and I swear I'm getting ready to throttle her. By trying to feed everyone this human food, you're weakening the whole clan. The strong will survive lean winters. I want to call her agenda what it is. Anti-human, anti-progress, callous, cruel, pointless. But I must play nice. This would be so much easier if I could go talk to Mary. She has a way with words that might even help me convince Grataya of the value of the work we've done here. And if I actually followed her agenda, we'd end up cutting our fighting force in half from injuries and starvation. It's ludicrous. I heard that your secretary, the human, was attacked and hasn't been to work since. Is she still considered employed? I want to warn Grataya to tread carefully here because I feel my temper flaring. But I don't want to draw any more attention to Mary if I can avoid it. Her job is waiting for her, yes, I say through clenched teeth. If she's too injured to work, you should just be done with her. You're too kind, Loki. She's taking advantage of you. What work has she really done that can't be better done by an orc? Be done with the useless little bee. Stop talking! No. But... Shut up and get out of my office before I have you thrown out, I warn, rising from my chair. Or throw you out myself. For the first time, I see legitimate fear in Grataya's eyes. I think she knows she crossed a line. I don't think I'd actually hurt her if she insulted Mary, but I'm not looking to test my composure today. She turns and quickly leaves, not bothering to close the door behind her. After a moment, Malthu pokes his head in. Sir? Would you like me to close the door? He asks. No, need. This room could use some airing out. I sit down at my desk looking at Grataya's list again. Not a single idea she has is worth the paper it's written on. I just need to wait this out. If we can get to the bottom of this violent anti-human conspiracy, then I won't need Grataya or her Swordhammer clan allies. If we destroy the ringleaders, then Mary will no longer be in danger, and perhaps she and I could be together. She'll wait for me, right? She has to know that what happened between us was more than just some passing thing. Mary understood the importance of the work. We were kindred spirits. Please, Mary, just hold on a little longer.
Chapter 13. Mary. I try my best to keep the house tidy for Bonnie and or do other little things to make myself useful. They work all day. I don't have much else to do as I continue to stay confined to the safest place I know. But the added security of Bonnie's home isn't the only reason I stay inside all the time. I also do it to avoid Loki. I know I'm going to have to talk to him eventually. I just need the right time. I don't know when the right time is, though. I told and Bonnie I'd talk with him the next time I see him. It just so happens to be hard to see him when I never leave the house. Isn't happy with me. It's been 7 weeks since I learned of my pregnancy, and while he's given up asking me if I've talked to Loki yet, I can feel his disappointment every time he sees me. Not dumb. He knows I'm avoiding it. I don't know if I could ever do enough house cleaning to make up for that. Even if every surface in the house shined, I'd still be avoiding Loki. But I'm certainly not able to get shining surfaces when I have to spend so much of my day resting or getting sick. I was worried at first because I was vomiting so often, but Bonnie and Alvin both said that I was around the upper side of average for morning sickness. I just wish it was actually confined to only the mornings. I'm nauseous all the damn time. That's not true. I'm either nauseous or ravenously hungry. And on a few unfortunate occasions, both at the same time. Ah, the miracle of life. But as much as some of the side effects of pregnancy are making me miserable, I can already feel a bond forming. I would do anything for this kid. I'm excited to meet them. Even as much as this baby has affected my body internally, externally, there aren't really any obvious signs. Despite feeling bloated, I'm not that much bigger. I don't have a noticeable baby bump, even shirtless. No one looking at me would think I'm pregnant. Not that I see much of anyone else since I don't really leave the house. Bonnie didn't want to leave me alone, but she had to get back to work at what was left of the clinic. Though they have started to replace some of the equipment that was destroyed in the attack. They haven't gotten an ultrasound or CT scanner, but they were able to scavenge a fetal heart monitor. After wrestling with it for a few minutes and getting into the exact right position, it was an amazing experience listening to this baby's heartbeat for the first time. And while I knew that babies' heartbeats were fast, it was different hearing it. But other than a recent and brief visit to the clinic, I've stayed indoors. There's just too much of a chance of seeing Loki. Bonnie tells me that people ask about me. She says she has been telling everyone that I'm still recovering from the attack, and I just need more time to heal. Though it seems like even she's getting tired of that. Though some people are less patient than others. Today, I feel pretty good, not too nauseous or too tired to function. While I'm sure I won't be getting every surface sparkling, I'm really making progress dusting the living room when there is a knock on the door. My heart leaps into my throat as I envision the orc who attacked me, just on the other side of the door, waiting to burst in and finish what he started. But then I hear a voice from the other side of the door. "Mary, it's Camille, open up." Camille? What is she doing here? For a moment I think I could just ignore it until she goes away, pretend I'm just asleep. But then I worry she might think something is wrong and go get Bonnie or worse, and interrupt their day. Not that I have to really worry about ever hurting me, but I know I just annoy him a whole lot more than I do Bonnie. Camille knocks again. I take a deep breath and open the door. "You're alive," Camille says, embracing me. "I'm sure Bonnie told you I'm fine." "You've barely been seen outside of this house in more than a month. I was starting to worry you died, and Bonnie just didn't say anything because she didn't want her reputation as a doctor to take a hit." Camille smiles at me. "Very funny. Thank you. I like to think I'm pretty hilarious. But seriously, are you okay?" "Yeah, just recovering slowly." "What's taking so long?" Broken rib." "Oh no, did I squeeze you too hard?" "Oh, maybe a little." "I'm so sorry." "You didn't know. It's not so bad," I say, trying to backpedal. Now she looks really guilty, and I feel guilty for making her feel guilty because I couldn't come up with a good lie on the spot. At least when people ask Bonnie, she gets to claim patient-doctor confidentiality. I should have just played dumb. "Where's Forrest?" I ask. "He's with Irish. I figured if you were injured, you didn't want a baby crawling all over you." "I mean, I'm getting better," I say weakly. Forrest was cute before, but I don't know if it's how isolated I've been or something to do with being pregnant. But I really want to hold a baby. Maybe I can bring him next time. "If you're still healing, should we sit?" she asks, a clever way to invite herself in. We sit on the couch and talk for a bit when I get hit by a sudden wave of nausea. I get up and run to the bathroom. When I come out, Camille stands in the hallway. "Is nausea a symptom of the broken ribs?" she asks, an eyebrow raised. "Or something else?" Her eyes flit to my hand over my stomach. People who are nauseous hold their stomachs too. It's not a big deal, but I realise I might have been doing it before now. I just find myself doing it unconsciously, even though I don't have much to hold on to. "Maybe," I answer weakly. "Uh-huh." Camille doesn't sound convinced. We go back to the couch and talk a bit more before I yawn. "Oh, God," I'm sorry, I say. Don't worry about it. I'm sure you're tired. From healing. Growing new cells takes energy. Yeah. She gets up and I try to follow, but she holds a hand up and says, "No, just sit. I got it. You rest." She walks to the door and puts on her boots. "Ginger tea," Camille says. "What?" "Ginger tea. It's what helped me when I was nauseous all the time." Camille knows. She doesn't know the details, but she knows. And yet, she's not going to make me say it, and I love her all the more for it. "Thank you," I say. "Any time. Just let me know if you are looking for any more tips." "I will." "Bye," she says with a wave. "Bye." I watch as she closes the door. I don't know if I actually fell asleep, but I was definitely drifting towards it when there's another knock on the door. I don't know how much time has passed. It could have been a minute or an hour for all I know. But I wonder if it's Camille coming back because she forgot something. Not thinking, I walk up and open the door, jumping back a little when I see a familiar orc standing in the doorway. Chapter 14. Mary. "Jorgen, what are you doing here?" I ask. "Are you looking for Bonnie or They're both at work." "I actually came to see you," he says, absent-mindedly rubbing the top of his head. My heart races. When the head of the city guard comes to see you, that can't be good news, right? Or is it really good news and they discovered the identity of who attacked me? "Oh, come in," I say, stepping aside. "Thank you." Jorgen nods to me, showing more of the growing bald patch in his short hair. I take a seat across from him at the kitchen table. "I was just about to make some tea. Can I get you anything?" I ask, and I see him eyeing the pastries I made this morning. I had a craving, and figured it would be nice to make something for my hosts as well. Without waiting for him to respond, I grab the plate and set it on the table while I put the kettle on. "Thank you," he says, picking up a pastry and taking a bite. "Oh, this is good," he adds around a mouthful. "Thank you, I'm glad you like them." I figured he would. We'd only met a few times, but I did learn he has a sweet tooth. "So why were you coming to see me?" I ask as I wait for the kettle to boil. He rubs the top of his head again, and I wonder if the nervous habit is the reason for the growing bald spot. "I wanted to come check on you. I feel responsible for what happened. If I had been doing my job, none of this would have happened. And Jorgen, I've seen the work you do. I've been in the meetings with you and Loki. I know the steps you take. I don't think it's your fault." He looks at me, slightly awestruck. "Really? You're not mad? I just really wish I had been there," he says, and then quickly adds, "or one of my guards." "I did choose a home on the edge of the base. It's barely part of the territory you're responsible for." "I guess. I still wish I could have stopped or caught the guy at least. Do you plan to go back?" he asks, picking up another pastry. "I don't know. I'm thinking about getting a place closer if I can. As much as I liked having my own house, I don't think I'd feel safe anymore out there by myself." "Well, let me know when you start looking. I just happen to know which houses have space and which don't." The kettle goes off, and I pour myself some tea. "No one asked you to check up on me?" He opens his mouth, I think to speak, but quickly takes a bite, chewing. He looks nervous, and I can tell it's a delay tactic. But he swallows the bite eventually and says, I'd been intending to come to see you. Like I said, I felt responsible, but things kept happening that pulled me away, and I heard you were still recovering, and I didn't want to cause you any stress. Really, what I was hoping for was being able to tell you we caught the guy." I watch him, waiting for him to continue, but he just looks slightly awkward. "So what changed your mind?" "Well, yeah, he, asked me to stop by sometime. I owe him a favour, and this is what he asked for in repayment. So, he wanted you to come here and do what exactly? Maybe protect you. Keep an eye on you. He wasn't really specific. Intimidating enough. I don't think I need extra protection. I see the way his face falls and say, not that I mind. I just know how busy you are and don't want you to waste your time with me. Oh, Mary. Number, you're not a waste of time. He said he thought we'd get along and that I should drop by sometime. And really, it wasn't like I wasn't planning on seeing you. I'll probably have to tell him I still owe him since it was something I wanted to do anyway. But I figure I couldn't put this off anymore. Asking for forgiveness? No, I mean, not just that, he says, rubbing his head again. Okay, what else then? His words come out haltingly at first, with long pauses between each one. I thought that maybe you and I could get to know each other a little better. He winced slightly, like he was expecting me to fly apart or something. I just look at him. It might be because I'm still a little tired, but I'm having trouble figuring out what has him so nervous. Okay, I say, and then my brain starts to catch up a little. Oh, okay. I was not expecting this, and feel entirely ill-equipped to be having this conversation, so for a moment I just look at him. Every interaction I've had with him has been slightly awkward. When he wasn't talking about things directly related to his duties, he'd start stuttering and stopping. I just thought that was how he was with everyone, but I was suddenly unsure if I'd seen him interact with anyone else like that. He must have interpreted my slightly stunned silence to mean he needed to explain himself. You see, I thought you were pretty, when I first met you. But then I saw your work and all that you do and realised you were also smart and kind of funny, and I'm really bad at this. This talking thing, to women, so I tried not to embarrass myself. I'd rehearsed a few things in my head, but by the time I'd gotten up the nerve to say something, it seemed like you were no longer available. I thought there was something going on there between you and Loki. I feel like the floor has dropped out under me. Was it that obvious? It must have been if the orc who broke into my house could see it. But someone like Jorgen noticing really surprises me. Though I suppose it shouldn't have, considering his job was literally noticing things. And I didn't want to get in the middle of something like that. I mean, come on. I think I'm an okay guy, but I don't think I would end up coming out on top in that sort of competition with Loki. I wondered if I might have been better off saying something sooner. I did a whole lot of what-ifs and thought I just waited too long. He clears his throat. Can I bother you for some water? Oh, sure. I get up and get him a glass of water, feeling a little flustered myself. I still have a lot to figure out, but Jorgen is a nice man. Seems sweet. I could at least hear him out. I hand him the water and he drains the glass. Go on, I say. What changed your mind? Oh yeah, where was I? Right. But then, when I heard Loki was getting mated, I figured either I was just imagining things, or whatever it was over, and maybe I shouldn't wait so long this time to ask you out. And it only took me about a month and a half, which is record time for me, really. He laughs nervously. So, I guess it doesn't really matter too much anymore, whether or not there was something going on then or not, because everything that happened should mean that there isn't anything going on now between you and Loki, right? I look at Jorgen in a slightly different light now. I mean, unless I waited too long again and you're, what's the human word? Dating? Unless you're dating someone else. Then he gives me a slightly awkward grin that practically screams, put me out of my misery, like he expects me to laugh him out of the house.
Chapter 15. Loki. Everyone around me has genuine smiles stretched across their faces where mine feels fake and forced. I struggle to keep it from wobbling as I look around the table, My eyes slide from to Irish to Inzo and a few other choice elders. They come around to where Hud is speaking to his niece who is seated on the other side of me. We're in the main dining area off my office for diplomatic meals. I don't usually enjoy these dinners, but they aren't normally this excruciating. Every brush of Grataya's arm against mine makes me recoil, and my chest is so tight I'm afraid I'm going to suffocate. I know I should be returning her affections, even if it is for show. But the more she tries to rope me into conversation, touching me lightly and even trying to put food on my plate to prove she can serve me, the more I want to storm out of the room. My eyes drift to her. I know out of everyone, he will see my true feelings in my eyes. He's always been able to make me feel better. We have such a special bond. When I try to catch his eye, though, I realize that he is staring down at his plate. Every so often, Irish glances his way, but doesn't seem to notice. In fact, he doesn't seem to notice anything going on around him. It hits me then how quiet he's been through the entire dinner. Actually, the only one that seems to be talking is Hud, I realize as I notice Irish quietly pecking at his food. I know he's been different since Forrest was born, but still, this behavior is unusual for the both of them. With both of my friends seeming to be elsewhere, I'm forced to turn back to Hud and Grataya. I try to force a smile on my face, but I'm not sure it truly lands. It's all I can do to keep from grimacing as I suffer through another hour of listening to the two of them. When it's finally time to leave, I dart out of the room as fast as possible. Somehow, and Irish both move faster than me, and by the time I make it outside, I don't see either of them. I blow out a breath, annoyed. I really need to talk to Thank you for waiting. Grataya loops her arm through mine, and I have to bite back an annoyed sigh. I think it's time we shed all the dead weight. She's trying to pull me forward, but I stay planted in place. I had a wonderful time with you this evening. The lie leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Unfortunately, I have some early meetings in the morning, so I think it's time for me to turn in. Before she can say much else, I slip free of her, twisting away from the path she is blocking. I duck down a few side streets until I know she couldn't have kept up with me, and then I start back toward my house. The walk home feels lonely, especially with the weird way that and Irish are behaving. I want nothing more than to go seek out Mary. She's always been able to calm my soul, but I know that I can no longer do that. I've made a mess of things, and as much as I know I need to untangle myself from it all and give her space, I just can't. Instead, as I climb the steps up to my house, I pause by the front door and look at one of my guards. Fetch Zenon for me. The guard nods his head, jogging off down the street as I go inside. It's the same request I've made every night now. I miss Mary so terribly that I have to know what's going on with her. And as chieftain, I know Zenon must tell me. It may be an invasion of her privacy, but I do nothing with the information. Right after his report, he goes back to guarding Mary, and no one has to know about my interest in her. I'm standing in the kitchen, staring out the window with a glass in hand, as I have every night, when Zenon walks in. "Chief," he says, hovering a few feet away, and I down the rest of my glass before turning to look at him. I incline my head, not even bothering with pleasantries after the dinner I just had to endure. "How is she?" Zenon shrugs. "She seems fine. Nothing really different in her behavior." I raise my eyebrows, and he already knows the next question. "She cleaned the house today. I even heard her singing. I think she's happy. She was laughing when she talked with Jorgen." Ice freezes in my veins as I stare at him, but Zenon's demeanor doesn't change. It never does. My fists clench as I take one step closer. "What did she and Jorgen talk about?" My voice is deadly calm compared to the whirlwind I feel inside. In reality, I want to scream. I want to know why she'll talk to Jorgen, why she'll let him in and laugh with him when she won't even see me. Zenon's features stay neutral as he tells me, though, and somehow it reminds me of just how much Mary has upended my life. He doesn't care about Jorgen speaking with her, but for me, it's like my world has ended. He came to house and she let him in. He stayed for 3 hours and I could see them through the window. They were laughing and talking. About what? My fist slams into the countertop, but he doesn't even flinch. I didn't hear a word, but as Jorgen left, he promised her he'd be back. All the anger deflates out of me, and with a last shred of hope, I ask, what did she say? She smiled, a really big smile. I think it made her happy. My arms fall limp by my sides as I stare at him. No trace of emotion on Xenon's face. It's painful to hear all of this from him, and he's directly tearing open all my wounds. If I didn't know any better, I'd think he was doing it on purpose. But I know that Xenon is not that kind of orc. He's only doing what I ask of him. You're dismissed, I mutter, feeling like collapsing all of the sudden. I've lost all my anger, all my energy, everything. I just want to fall to the ground, take the bottle of mead with me, and pretend for a little while that I have nothing more to worry about than Mary and Jorgen and their mysterious conversation. I don't know how long I stand there after Xenon leaves. I don't even register he does as I try to puzzle out all the information he just gave me. The idea of Jorgen being allowed to see Mary and not me fills me with panic and rage. I've never felt this kind of heat soar through my body and squeeze my heart. My mind is screaming at me to rush over there, to demand my men to stand aside. They have to listen to me. She had to know that. She just expects better of me, I bitterly admit. It's the only thing that keeps my feet planted firmly to the ground. Instead, I sink to the floor, leaning my head back against the cabinets. With my long reach, I hook my hand around the bottle of mead and forego the glass this time. Why does it hurt so much more to know that he was there for so long? An orc can accomplish a lot with a woman in a short amount of time, but to talk for 3 hours? That's not just polite conversation. For the 1000th time, I have to wonder, what was Jorgen doing there? It's suffocating to acknowledge that I will never know.
From the depths of the darkness of Prothika,
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy.
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
These monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires.
demons,
Dark elves.
gods.
Minotaurs. Creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks.
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks.
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
Even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Prothika Fantasy Romance Bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Prothika at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprothika.com. Prothika's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless. Chapter 16. Mary. I stare back at my reflection, wiping every trace of trepidation from my face. Enough has been enough. I've been moping around this house for too long, and it's time for me to stop hiding. It'll be good for me to get out of the house, even if it's just for a short walk, but I immediately find myself walking toward Loki's office. I pause in the middle of the street, looking around as if I had been in a daze. I suppose I was, and now it's rushing over me that being Loki's assistant and friend is all I have known on this base. What am I to do now? I shake my head. Things are changing, and as hard as it is to face that, there is only one way for me to move forward. I have to tell Loki that I'm resigning. I wish my absence was enough to let him know, but it'll be better if I tell him in person. It'll be the first step in opening conversation for other things, I remind myself. Though if sees me there, he might tell Loki on the spot, and I almost run away at the thought. Every step toward his office makes my heart thunder and my stomach twist. I'm afraid I'm going to be sick from all the anxiety of having to face him. But I know I have to do this. I can't avoid the chieftain forever. As I step inside, I suck in a deep breath and steel my nerves. Loki's office door is ajar, and I march up to it, rapping lightly on the outside before pushing it all the way open. I can see that no one else is in here, so I know he won't mind. Malthu doesn't even try to stop me. "Come." He freezes as he looks up at me, mouth still hanging open to take me in. "Mary." His chest is heaving, and he sounds breathless. The intensity of his stare makes me want to turn and bolt. This is the first conversation we have had in a long time, and the tension is so thick it feels like a wall built up between us. We study each other, and he seems surprised. Loki keeps blinking like he's trying to wake up from a daydream, and I'm a little shocked too at how much weight he seems to have lost. Should I be worried? I shake the thought from my head and ignore the stinging in my heart as I take a step farther into the room. "Loki." He drops his files on his desk and comes around to the other side, still leaving plenty of room between us, though it seems to be an effort to do so. "What are you doing here?" I'm careful to keep my voice calm as I talk to him. "I thought it was time we talked face to face." He lights up a little. I agree. "As I'm sure you've gathered, I will no longer be working for you." Loki's face falls, and I have to swallow back how much that hurts. "I want to be assigned elsewhere." His mouth drops open, his jaw working so that he looks like a fish gasping for air. I stare at him, uncertain of what to do until he regains his composure. "Why?" It's a mere gasp, but he seems to gather himself. "Why so suddenly?" He tugs at his braid, his voice growing louder. "And why did you leave like that? What is going on? You won't even talk to me anymore." I jolt at the sudden sharpness in his voice, but when I look in his eyes, I see the hurt and anger swirling there. "It doesn't matter," I chastise myself. Before I can say anything or turn to leave, Loki closes the distance between us, gripping my arms. He pins me in place, leaning down to study my eyes as he takes me in. He seems to be searching for answers that I'm not even sure I have, and as he holds me still, anger bubbles up inside of me. "Let me go!" I snap, trying to pull away from him, but his grip is iron strong. He doesn't make a move to loosen his hold on me, and it only enrages me more. I don't think any of my words through. I don't think I even mean to say them before they come spilling out. But finally, Loki gets some of his answers, and it is a relief to pour out all that my soul has been bearing. "You don't get to ask me those things," I seethe, snarling at him. "My life, my actions, my decisions, none of them are your concern. You are getting married to someone else, and you've made it perfectly clear that I was nothing but a mere deviation in your perfectly laid out plans." Mary ... No, I've made my choice. You're looking for a mate. Even after everything else, you were still looking for a mate. Tears burn at the back of my throat as I remember what it was like to have Loki hold me in his loving embrace, but I shove it all down. I don't want to be whatever I was anymore. I've decided to stay away because it is what's best for me, and obviously it is for you too. Whatever I say seems to strike him hard, because his hands slacken and his face contorts into a pained expression. "It's not like that." I jerk back from him as he reaches for my face. "No, Mary, please, let me explain." "What kind of explanation could you give?" I bite off, all the weeks of agonizing jealousy and pain and anger catching up with me. All the time of being his secretary, his friend, his secret love. It all catches up with me in a blaze of fury. "What do I need to know or see? Aren't you getting married to Grataya? Isn't your entire wedding already planned? What more is there that I am too blind to see this time?" My voice is so harsh it comes out like a physical blow. Loki grits his teeth as he takes each verbal lash, and when the air dissolves into silence besides my heaving breaths, he says nothing. It only makes me angrier. Somehow him not trying to explain is so much harder to endure than if he would have just tried to fight for me, or tell me that I didn't understand something? Was I that stupid that I thought this orc could actually give me what I wanted? You have no right to ask anything about my life, I snarl, all of the pain turning into pure rage. I know I need to get out of here, but I can't stop myself from flinging these insults at him, from cauterizing our relationship with my searing words. You don't have the right to ask what I'm doing or act like you care when I know you don't. I ball my fists up, glaring deep into his eyes. Just like how I don't care about you anymore. I watch the way my words land with both pain and sick satisfaction. Loki's words come out strangled as he asks me, "You don't care about me?" I almost break right then. The tears building in my chest almost come flowing out, and my heart is screaming, I do, in my ears. But then I remember this baby and his fiancée, and I grit my teeth. No, I breathe, I don't. It takes every ounce of my willpower to shove down the pain, and I honestly don't know who it hurts worse. All I know is he needed to hear it. Or at least I thought until he shakes his head. I don't believe you, he growls. It's my turn to be shocked as he cups my head, closing the distance between us faster than I thought possible, and his lips capture mine in a crushing kiss that tears down my defences and destroys me in more ways than one.
Chapter 17. Loki. This isn't how I wanted to kiss her. None of this is how I pictured our reunion. If this is truly our last kiss, I think darkly to myself as I move my lips greedily over Mary's. Then I have to make it count. Perhaps it's wishful thinking, but I swear that Mary kisses me back. Her motions are enough to spur me forward, deepening our kiss as I cradle her soft face in my hand. Everything about Mary affects me like a drug. She tastes vaguely of herbal tea and honey, the familiar smell of citrus and sugar clinging to her as we kiss. I commit this moment to memory. Every sensation, every breath she takes, I enshrine in my mind. If this is all I have left of Mary, of us, I won't let a single moment of our time together escape me. I'm so lost in charting every second of intimacy between us that I almost don't notice the moisture that's gathered on my face and fallen into my cupped hand. I pull back from Mary, confused, to see the tears flowing freely down her face. My heart shatters. I've been so lost in my own grief that I never considered the pain I've been inflicting on her. For all my talk of duty and selflessness, I forced her to compromise in ways no one should have to, especially not Mary. My hands fall limply at my side as I stare at her sweet features, twisted in anguish as her small body shakes while she weeps. Come on, make it count. Remember, Loki, not a single moment of this can pass you by. You must remember everything. A small, sick voice mocks me in my mind. You've made your bed. Now lie in it. Mary. My voice breaks as I say her name. Mary, please. I'm so sorry. I want to reach for her, to comfort her, but I'm terrified of touching her. I've already poisoned so much between us. Mary shrinks away from me as I step towards her, her sobs intensifying. I must look like a monster to her. I am a monster. Please, just let me go, Mary begs, avoiding my eyes as she wraps her arms around herself. She looks as if she's trying to physically hold the pieces of herself together, and my heart breaks anew at the image. I force myself to turn away from the picture, the distress in her voice nearly bringing me to my knees. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Had her pain been brought on by anyone or anything else, I'd wipe it from the face of this earth. That would be an easier, kinder fate than knowing I am the source of her despair. My actions, my fault. I grit my teeth, placing a steadying hand against the wall I'm now facing, trying to keep myself from imploding. For once, right here, right now, I have to do what's right for her. Go. The word feels like a death sentence as it leaves my lips. I say it so quietly that at first I'm concerned she didn't hear me, but any hope of selfishly taking it back, of demanding that she stays so I can explain myself, is dashed as her footsteps recede. I'm frozen to the wall I'm leaning against, trapped in a cage of my own making. Any truly decent orc, hell, any orc with a spine would have been honest all along. Any orc with a spine would take control of his own life, not let others plan it for him. You, however, are not an orc with a spine. You're hardly an orc at all. You're a well-trained lapdog, destined to lead your clan to doom. Not even the woman you love is safe from your shortcomings. I slam my hand against the wall, pulling myself from my spiral. I may have lost Mary, but I will not lose my clan. I will not lose my ability to defend what I still can. I let my feet carry me, not trusting my mind to do much of anything right now. I find myself in the training arena, and my blood hums at the thought of expelling some of this tension. Fighting something else is easier than fighting myself. Unfortunately, I'm not alone in the training arena, I realize as I see Ur's hulking form facing away from me, running through combat drills against one of the various straw dummies. My temper flares at the sight of him. Of course, out of all the places he could be, he must be under my feet with the piss-poor attitude he's carried everywhere the past week. Ur turns to look at me as if sensing my train of thought, and the shrewd disappointment that darkens his features sends me over the edge. What? I snap at him, closing the distance between us so quickly that our noses are nearly touching when I come to a stop before him. What bug crawled up your butt, Ur? Do you have something you want to talk about? I growl as I ball my fist in the fabric of the front of his shirt. Ur's expression doesn't waver as he stares back at me, his eyes dropping to my hand before climbing back to my face. His dissatisfaction with me cuts like a knife, and his refusal to give in to my goading only fans the flames of my temper. This is pitiful, Loki. His words echo through me for a moment before my rage sets in, and I shove him backwards with enough force to make him stumble. My aggression finally finds purchase with Ur, and I see a glint of violent promise in his eyes as he reclaims his balance. Good, I think smugly to myself as I widen my stance. You don't deserve anything good, Ur spits at me. There's a hint of jealousy in his voice that nearly startles me out of my intention to pick a fight. What does that mean? I shoot back, half hoping he'll genuinely answer me. You're a stupid, benefit-driven orc, nothing like the friend I thought I knew, Ur retorts as he sinks slightly at his knees. It's been his tell since we were younglings. He'll rush me soon. I say nothing in response to his insult. After all, he speaks the truth. You're a coward, Loki! You're too afraid to rely on your own abilities, so you look to a female orc to stabilize the clan you're too scared to lead. I launch myself at him, unable to stand that the truth is so obvious to him, to others. Ur expects my strike and uses my forward momentum against me to shove me off balance. We fall to the ground, tangled together as we lash at one another. My fist finds Ur's jaw with a satisfying crunch, mere seconds before he knocks the wind out of me with a vicious strike to my gut. Ur flings me off of him, giving both of us enough time to find our feet before we're running at each other again. My eyes sting with the mixture of sweat and blood leaking into them. Ur is easily one of our best warriors, and his sheer size gives him an advantage over most, but I'm not most. We've been training together since birth, so I know every move in his repertoire. The only issue is, he also knows mine. Where Ur has brute strength, I have agility. Where I'm faster, he's smarter. We stay locked in this back and forth, each of us venting our frustrations on the other, drawing blood and sweat from one another in a satisfying, deadly dance. I can feel that we're both beginning to lose steam when I hear Jorgen shout at us and see him approach from my peripherals. Xenon's earlier words echo through my head, and the idea of Jorgen and Mary together makes me nearly go blind with rage. I found my second wind. Jorgen tries to step between the two of us, and I take advantage of Ur's slowing strikes by punching Jorgen in the face as hard as I can. Jorgen stumbles into Ur, who shoves him off in an attempt to return his attention to me. Jorgen reacts quickly, bringing his knee into Ur's gut. The three of us descend into chaos again, a blind swirl of appendages seeking to vent as much frustration as possible. I almost feel bad for Jorgen, who spends most of his time defending himself rather than striking back almost. Eventually, Jorgen manages to force himself between Ur and I and knocks the both of us to the ground. We're too tired to get up again, laying in the dust, panting as we stare up at the sky. Jorgen collapsing between us. "What the heck, guys?" He grumbles at us as he struggles to catch his breath. We're all battered, bruised, and bloody. We fall silent except for the sounds of our gasping breaths, which slowly fade as we catch up with ourselves. I turn to face Ur, who is already quietly appraising me across Jorgen. I hold his gaze for a moment. "Do you truly believe those things of me?" I ask him, my voice low. A part of me is scared to hear his answer. Of the many opinions of those around me, I value Ur's the most. Ur just looks back at me quietly.
Chapter 18. Mary. After fleeing Loki's office, I went straight to Bonnie. Aside from the fact that she and are the only ones who know about my current predicament, my cousin is also one of the few people I feel fully able to be myself in front of. The second I cross the threshold of the clinic, Bonnie rushes to me, bundling me against her as if I were a toddler with a skinned knee. I let the body-shaking sobs come, not bothering to wipe the snot from my nose, Bonnie cradling me gently as she shushes and strokes my hair. I don't know how long we stay like this, but eventually the tears stop coming, and I remember myself, pulling away from Bonnie and glancing around the clinic. Nobody else is here today. Bonnie reassures me as she wipes stray tears from my face. She guides me gently towards the back of the clinic, where I sit on one of the patient beds as she gets me a glass of water. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" she asks, sitting on a stool in front of the bed as she offers me the cup of water. I take it, shaking my head, not ready to relive all of the emotion quite yet. Bonnie nods sympathetically and pats my hand, gazing at me for a moment before rising to her feet. "Well, who likes playing secretary anyways?" she says as she grabs something off the counter anyways. "Playing doctor is much more fun." She wiggles her eyebrows at me, offering me a stethoscope. I can't help but giggle at Bonnie's playful tone. Despite everything, she's always known how to make me feel better, even if she does treat me like a child sometimes. She should be pregnant, not me. She'd be a great mom, and besides, she's the one with a mate who wants her, a jealous part of me interjects, ready to sour any happiness I'm able to find. I regret the thought immediately, a hand floating to my belly. Bonnie is going to be a great mum, but so will I say to myself as much as I do to my unborn child. I love you so much already, little one. I turn my attention back toward Bonnie, who graciously pretends not to notice my departure from reality. "I've already spoken with the shamans, and we could really use some help around here," Bonnie says, returning to my side with a clipboard in hand. "We've made a lot of improvements, but with all of the patients and the upkeep of the equipment, clerical things have fallen by the wayside. If you're willing, we'd love to take you on as an assistant. We just need help keeping things tidy and organised, keeping track of maintenance needs for the building and the equipment, things of that nature," Bonnie finishes, offering me the clipboard. I smile graciously as I take it from her, giving the list a quick once-over. All of the itemised tasks are well within my comfort zone, and besides, I've always loved watching Bonnie and Grandpa work. In the few short months that we've been here, they've built this clinic from the ground up. Even after it was ransacked, it looks less like a clinic and more like the pictures of hospitals we'd seen pictures of in Grandpa's textbooks. There's scavenged medical equipment of all shapes and sizes, from ultrasound machines to EKG monitors, all running on energy gathered from solar panels. I smile at Bonnie, feeling a swell of pride and gratitude. "I'd love to help out around here," I tell her with a grin. Bonnie claps her hands excitedly before wrapping me in yet another hug. I squeeze her back, laughing. "Can I start today?" I ask, feeling a sudden urge to be useful. Bonnie rolls her eyes playfully. "I'd expect nothing less," she responds. "I need to get back to a few dilutions I'm working on, but if you want to start organising the filing cabinet in the back, that'd be great." I nod, setting off to work immediately. No more than a few minutes pass of us working in comfortable silence before the doors to the clinic burst open. I jump at the sudden noise, but all Bonnie does is huff a sigh. "Always so dramatic," she grumbles as our visitors cross the threshold. Bonnie's flippant attitude changes when she sees his eyebrows split open and dried blood caked around his nostrils. Is followed by Jorgen, who has a swollen right eye and the beginnings of a nasty bruise blooming across his cheek and crawling up his skull. I marvel at the two orcs and can't help but wonder what could have injured them so grievously. My heart stops when I see Loki. He's slightly behind Jorgen, his bottom lip split, a hand cradling his head as he winces with every other step. His eyes find mine almost immediately, and I turn away quickly, not wanting him to see the swell of emotion I'm certain is all over my face. "Good Lord, what happened?" Bonnie says incredulously, as she rushes the three orcs to 3 patient beds, practically shoving them to get them to sit so she can survey their injuries. "Mary, will you grab the trauma kit and come help me, please?" she calls as she surveys the 3 orcs, her hands on her hips. Bonnie and I make the connection at the same time, and my stomach goes leaden. Did they fight about me? Does Loki know about the baby? I think frantically, stealing surreptitious glances at Loki as I grab the trauma kit and a few other pertinent supplies from the cabinet. Bonnie has already begun working on glaring at him as she cleans the split on his eyebrow with a cotton swab. Hisses as she dabs at the wound much harder than necessary and reaches up to grab her wrist. "Gentle, Jamia," he coaxes. Bonnie glowers at him, but a small smile plays on her lips when calls her Jamia. Despite Bonnie's posturing, she's never been able to stay mad at for long. I smile at them before another pang of jealousy sweeps through me. I had once looked at them and seen my future with Loki. Now, it just feels like a taunt from the universe to see them so genuinely happy and comfortable with one another. That's not their fault, of course, and I couldn't be happier for Bonnie and It's just hard to feel like I've been somehow deemed unworthy of such an affectionate, loving relationship, and then to watch one unfold right before my eyes. I rip my gaze from them, glancing between Loki and Jorgen as they both wait for some kind of medical attention. I plop down on a stool in front of Jorgen, ignoring the way Loki stares openly at me. My hand shakes slightly as I gently prod the swelling around Jorgen's eye, pretending to be engrossed in my duties as my heart races. What, he suddenly cares now? I think darkly, steeling myself as I dip a rag into some cool water before handing it to Jorgen. "Hold this over your eye to help the swelling," I tell him with a small smile. "What about me?" Loki asks, his voice bearing a nearly childish bend of jealousy. I'm as surprised by his tone as I am irritated by it. He is literally marrying someone else, but I'm not allowed to even hold eye contact with another man. I fume quietly. I glance at Bonnie, hoping she'll deal with Loki so I don't have to, but she pretends not to hear him, suddenly becoming very busy tending to minor bumps and bruises. I stifle a sigh as I grab my kit and sit in front of Loki. I avoid his eyes, trying to keep my breathing steady as I examine the split on his bottom lip. I run my finger gently across it, noting the way he winces with a small bit of sick satisfaction. "Not much to be done about a split lip or a headache," I say as I turn away from him hurriedly, eager to escape the tension quickly building between us. This is the first time we've been this close since I went to his office, since he told me to go. I stare at the way his huge hand envelops mine, and my heart feels like it may leap from my chest. Hope, rage, desperation, and grief all flurry through me, chasing one another as he squeezes my hand gently. I raise my eyes to his, truly looking at him for the first time since we were in his office together. "Can we have dinner together?" Loki asks softly, the pleading in his voice stirring an ache in my chest. I don't trust myself to respond.
Chapter 19. Loki. Mary just stares at me, the expression on her face unreadable. There was a time I could read her emotions as if they were my own, but a wall has risen between us since then. A wall of my own making, I think sourly. Watching her tend to Jorgen as I sat beside him and tested every bit of self-control I have. The idea of them together makes every cell in my body scream for blood. It's not that Jorgen is a bad orc by any means. I'd even go so far as to call him a friend. But he's not good enough for Mary. Neither am I, that taunting voice in my head returns. I know that it's right, but to have her here in front of me is too much to bear. I couldn't help but try to speak to her, as wrong of me as it may be to continue to demand her attention after the pain I've caused her. Mary steps backward suddenly, and my stomach drops as I wait for her to recoil in disgust at my request, for her to mock me or tell me just how beneath her I am, but she does no such thing. She just appraises me, something shining in her eyes that I can't quite place. Mary leaves her hand in mine, even with the additional distance she's placed between us. She opens her mouth to say something before closing it again, as if she's thought better of it. "You should talk," says gruffly from his seat to my right, with Bonnie still standing over him, pretending not to notice the rest of the people in the room. The gratitude that sweeps through me at my friend, my brother, coming to my aid despite his personal feelings about my behavior, makes me glad I'm seated. I give him a small nod while Mary stares at him in shock, or seems to contemplate the gesture for a moment before returning it. My eyes move to Mary, hoping that perhaps words will sway her. At this point, I have no clue what I'd say to try and make things better, but I have to try. Mary's gaze shifts from to Bonnie. I don't understand the look Bonnie gives Mary, but it's full of hidden meaning. I feel a fist clench around my heart. What on earth could that mean? I think to myself. Women have a habit of communicating without words, especially with one another, but Bonnie and Mary seem to be capable of having a full conversation without uttering a word. Whatever the cousins discuss telepathically, it does not end well for me. Mary snatches her hand back suddenly after shooting a withering look at "There's nothing to talk about." Mary's voice carries an air of finality that I dare not challenge. I sag under the crushing weight of her public refusal, unable to find it in me to even pretend to be unaffected. Frowns at the exchange, clearly perturbed by Mary's answer, and opens his mouth to speak again. Bonnie quickly grabs his hand, visibly squeezing as if to issue a warning. They look at each other, and yet another wordless conversation ensues. What could they possibly be hiding? Is something going on that I don't know about? Is Mary hiding something from me? Is she already seeing someone new? My thoughts chase one another as I look at Mary, who's pretending to busy herself with putting away the different instruments and supplies she and Bonnie used to clean us up. My eyes slide to where Jorgen sits beside me, and he clears his throat uncomfortably. No. Actually, Jorgen starts, his gaze shifting from me to Mary. No. Mary already agreed to have dinner with me tonight. Jorgen's words threaten to break the last bit of control I have over myself, as I fight the urge to slam his head into the floor of the clinic. Mary smiles thankfully at him, as if he spared her the huge burden of sharing air with me, and doesn't even look at me as she grabs her things. Jorgen hesitates, looking at me as if there's something he wishes to say before standing to meet her at the door of the clinic. I think I'm going to be sick. Mary says something to him, as the door closes behind them, something I can't quite catch, but I can hear the relief in her voice, even without knowing what she says. There's a strange burn in my eyes and at the back of my throat as I stare at the ground beneath my feet. Bonnie and both continue their quiet conversation as if I'm not there, likely to spare me any pride I might have left. I piece myself together slowly, trying to fight the strange swell of physical sensations that accompanies this new range of emotions. I can't tell if I want to fight something, crawl under a rock, bang my head against a wall, or sleep. I get to my feet, vaguely aware of Bonnie saying something about taking things easy until my head injury heals. Her words bounce off of me like grains of sand, but I nod as if I was listening. Jealousy writhes in my gut like a viper as I look at and Bonnie, huddled together at the end of the clinic bed, while Bonnie fusses over injuries. There's nothing in the world I wouldn't give to be close to Mary again like that, to show her that tenderness. I turn away from the mates, leaving the clinic and gulping down the cool night air. I will never have that kind of love, that kind of tenderness with Grataya, but I could have it with Mary. If she'll have me. I have to try. At the very least, I have to apologize. I have to tell her how I feel so that if she walks away, she knows what she's walking away from, so that I know she refused me without anything unspoken. I have to tell her I love her. My realization spurs me forward, the keen sting of her refusal dulling as I think about the life we could build together. She may be having dinner with Jorgen, but I'll wait as long as necessary. I'd wait forever for her. I'm jogging towards Bonnie and house when I hear the familiar tinkle of her laugh. I slow my pace as I approach the house, sticking to the shadows of the trees as I quietly creep closer. Mary is laughing at something Jorgen has said, and he's smiling warmly back at her. I can't quite hear what's being said. Honestly, I'm thankful I can't. Controlling the envy, the resentment that swells at just the sight of Jorgen near her at this hour of night is enough of an exercise without having to listen to his bad jokes. I wait for them to go inside, to have to wait through hours of eating or conversation or gods know what else. But they linger at the door. Fury sweeps through me as they embrace, but is quickly followed by relief as Jorgen turns away and walks in the direction of his home. To my shock, Jorgen and I make eye contact. I expect him to be surprised or say something about my presence to Mary or point out that I'm hiding and spying like a pervert. Instead, Jorgen gives me an almost imperceptible nod as he holds my gaze, before shifting his eyes back to the path ahead of him. I'm too stunned to react at the moment, but gratitude crashes through me. Mary still lingers outside, her back to me as she looks up at the night sky. I step out of the shadows of the tree and walk towards her, letting my intentions color my every movement. Mary turns to me and looks anything but surprised. Perhaps the only person surprised I'm here tonight is me, I think, as I come to a stop a few feet from her. Mary sighs and gestures for me to follow her as she opens the front door. "Come inside," she says, and while her tone is less than pleased, her willingness to speak to me stirs an optimism I haven't felt about our relationship in a while. I follow her inside wordlessly, and she closes the door behind us. I'm searching for the right way to begin everything I want to say to her, but Mary starts speaking before I can open my mouth. "We need to end this properly, right here, right now. Let me go."
This huge orc brings out the animal in me.
In a world where humans have been driven underground, living like rats is the only way to stay safe from the marauding orcs.
All my life, my only job has been to make sure I have enough to eat.
These orcs of the Burning Sun clan will vow to keep their human mates safe.
There is a nobleness to these giant savages, alpha male warriors who will protect their women at all costs.
Get this complete series of books following the Burning Sun clan for 70% off. Each book is a full-length monster romance that features a giant orc with eyes for his beloved, curvy human, happily ever after guaranteed.
Prothika's magic is eternal.
This bundle will show you that size really does matter. Chapter 20. Loki. Never have 3 small words had such an effect on me. They ring in my ears, torturous and painful. I have sustained injuries on the battlefield that have not even come close to feeling this bad, and I can't imagine anything ever feeling any worse. Let me go. Never. I can never let her go, won't let her go. The very thought is so unbearable, it makes my chest tighten as though I could never take another breath if she were not by my side. Not only could I never let her go, but I would rather die than see her in the arms of another. Even if that is Jorgen. It is only now that I realize the hurt I have caused her, and I've never been more ashamed of myself, my inexperience in such matters showing how little I know about what it means to feel this way about a woman. There have been women, many of them. As chieftain, I would never have to worry about such things. But all of these women have come and gone in a haze of lust and ale-fueled shenanigans, like most of the orcs on this base and beyond. I drop to my knees, wrapping my arms around her waist as she stiffens inside my embrace. Please, I beg, don't go, Mary. I'm so very sorry for any hurt that I have caused you. Nothing hurts me more than knowing I have done this. My eyes become blurry, and a strange sensation overcomes me, tickling my skin as drops of water fall from my eyes. I've seen many humans cry, but never an orc. I did not know it was possible that we even could. She gasps, a look of incredulity on her beautiful face. Are you serious? She asks, as if there is no way this can be true. You are crying. She can hardly believe it herself, but she has no idea how much she means to me, and so would never understand the desperation and pain I feel at her insistence that I leave her and get on with my life with another woman, a woman I cannot bear to be in the same room with, let alone tethered to for the rest of my life. Grataya is nothing compared to this woman. She does not even come close to the kind, capable, strong, and beautiful Mary. Looking up at her, I blink the tears from my eyes. Mary, I love you so much you will never know just how much I've wanted to tell you this. It was always you. I cannot live without you by my side. Oh, if it was always me, then how are you betrothed to Grataya? She cries, the hurt evident in her voice and etched on her face. What about the grand plans, your responsibilities? What about the fact that you are a chieftain with the weight of expectation laying heavy on your shoulders? Her words wound me, partly because they are true, and partly because some of them are my own. Will she ever be able to forgive me for being so blind, so stupid? For making her hear these words and having to live with them silently as they ate away at her? What about that, Loki? You have made your position very clear, as have the elders. Mating with Grataya is what is best for you and the clan. Nothing can come of us. Her voice quakes at the end of the sentence, as though the realization of our fates has finally dawned on her. And now you come here because you have seen that somebody else has taken an interest in me, when all along you and her have been... She can't even finish that train of thought. It is not like that, I protest, suddenly wondering again if she has feelings for Jorgen, the jealousy threatening to eat me alive. How else could it be, Loki, but you and Grataya and the alliances that will be made? The clan comes before me, and before anyone else. I don't blame you for this. I should have always known it would be that way, but... But? I ask, hope welling in my heart. But I felt too hard for you. We should never have let it get that far. I am, and always will be chieftain of this clan, and it will stay that way. My power and ability alone will enable this clan to thrive. I will ensure that the Burning Sun clan is the strongest, the most successful and affluent. I will bring it to the zenith, and I will do it with you at my side. No one else. Again, she gasps, the force of my declarations shocking her. But I mean every single word of what I say, having finally seen what I stand to lose, should I choose the path that others wish me to tread, instead of following and forging my own. Without you, it would mean nothing anyway, I finish. Nothing, Mary. You can't have it both ways, Loki. I grab her hand and place it on my cheek, closing my eyes as I prepare to unveil the depths of who I am. I am a good chieftain, a successful one that commands respect because of who and what I am. But I have never known love, only leadership and battle and victory, but never love. There were times when I wondered if such a thing even existed, or whether it was just another madness. In a way it is, she says softly. I nod, knowing exactly what she means, because the feelings that have arisen in me have shaken me to my very core. Opening my eyes, I find her still gazing down at me. If I need to, I will step down as chieftain. For you, I would do anything. She shakes her head, No, you can't do that. I can't let you do that for me. Do you trust me? I ask. Do you believe that what I say to you is true? Because if you do, then I can do anything. I rise to my feet, taking her sweet face in my hands and looking deeply into her huge eyes. The betrothal to Grataya is nothing but a cover to protect you. A simple ruse to help discover those responsible for the crimes that have been committed. What? Nothing and no one means more to me than you. I cannot see you suffer and certainly cannot see you harmed. Tears well in her eyes, and within a few moments deep, racking sobs emerge from her, making my heart ache even more than it already is. Do you really love me as you say you do? She asks. The question seems so ridiculous to me, knowing just how much this woman owns my heart, body, and soul. But if she is still in any doubt, then I have to assuage her fears. With everything that I am and everything that I have, Mary, I say, tilting her chin up to find her lips before placing a delicate kiss on them. My body explodes with love, longing and relief at finally having her this close to me again. And I've never been more certain that we are made for each other. I wipe the tears from her face, and she sniffs gently after becoming so overwhelmed with emotion. And if you love me as you say you do, I have something to tell you, she says. Instantly, my heart clenches, hoping that whatever she is about to divulge will do nothing to stop us from being together. I truly could not take any other blow. Certainly now that she seems to believe me and even feel the way that I do. What is it? I ask.
Chapter 21. Mary. His confessions have astonished me, but I feel the next one from me may be the winner when it comes to shocking things that we have both kept hidden from each other. I take a seat on the sofa while he stands before me, waiting with bated breath to hear what I have to tell him. I blow out a breath to calm my nerves, noticing the look of trepidation on his face. "What is it?" he asks again. After everything he has just revealed to me, he must be worried about what I'm about to say. The only thing I can do is set it free now. The thing that I have dreaded telling him, the very thing that will prove whether all the declarations he has just made are indeed true. He claims to love me, that he would do anything for me, and that he could not even begin to think about a life without me. He says he would even give up the thing that he values the most, the chieftaincy. Because now he insists I am the most important thing in his life. I'm pregnant. It's out, finally, after all these weeks. You're going to be a father. He stares at me for a few seconds, as if in a trance, while the information travels through his brain, settling into the places that will make it real. Because this is real. This baby is coming no matter what he thinks or whatever his reaction is going to be. "Did I hear you right?" he asks, his expression vacant. "I'm pregnant, Loki. I am having your baby." My heart thuds in my chest as I begin to wonder if I have done the right thing. What if this is the last thing that he would want? He says he wants me, but a child never figured in that equation. His face changes from shock to disbelief to joy in the space of a few moments, each of those feelings clear to me by the expressiveness in his manner. At last, I can breathe, sensing that this is good news on his part. "You are with child, my child?" he asks again, trying to make sense of this but still not quite believing it. "Yes," I affirm, smiling at his reaction that has made my heart sing. "Your child, Loki." I press my hand lightly against my belly, an instinctive gesture that seems to be growing in intensity by the day. "You are having my child!" The look on his face is pure elation. I nod, vigorously, because for some reason he just can't seem to believe it. He takes a seat next to me, encasing me in his strong arms, and I feel the joy, the love, the honesty in every word he has said and every emotion his face has shown me. "So, this is good news?" I ask him. "This is the best news I have ever received in my life, apart from hearing you say that you want to be with me," he says animatedly. "We will be together at last, and I will be a father. I was so worried about telling you, wondering if I even should, I confess. I want this child, desperately, Loki, but I had no idea what to do. You were betrothed, you still are, and I would be alone raising a child in a world that isn't kind to women. He stares at me, his eyes warm and full of everything good that a human, and indeed an orc, can feel. I'm going to be a father, he says softly. And you will be the best mother that any child could ever wish for. I hope so, I say, gazing back at him. I had worried so much about how this was going to work out, Loki. It was not my intention to try to trap you into any kind of arrangement or... He places a thick finger to my lips. Enough, he says. I will hear no such words from you. You are the best woman, the best person that I have ever known. I would never expect anything like that from you, and I am honoured that it is my child that you carry. I wish you had told me, but I understand of course why you felt you couldn't. Tears spring to my eyes again, but they are very different to the ones I spilled earlier. I am overcome with happiness, relief and love for this orc and the child that grows inside me. Our child. What seemed an impossible situation just a few minutes ago has now changed to this. Something so beautiful, so wanted and desired I can hardly believe it. We are to be a couple, and we are to then be a family. How this happens is the next course we need to navigate, but between us I am hopeful we can do that. He lifts me gently and places me on his lap, where I nestle into his muscular body. I had always thought orcs to be formidable creatures, but being in his arms has become my favourite place to be. There is nothing frightening or overwhelming about it. An orc like Loki wields his power responsibly, and there is a gentleness that also makes me feel protected and cherished. It seems we both had confessions to make, I say, as he tenderly rubs my belly. You have made me the happiest orc alive, he says. If you feel even a fraction of what I do right now as a result of me, then I know you will be satisfied. Oh, I am more than satisfied, I reply, stroking his lips, enjoying the feel of them under my fingers. But after everything that's happened seems as though it's a world away now. As long as I have you and our child, that's all that matters now, I say. His lips meet mine. Just us, he whispers, a hand travelling to the back of my head where he pulls my hair gently through his fingers. Suddenly the door is flung open, and Bonnie stepping into their house to find us in our intimate embrace. My face heats, and I immediately jump to my feet, embarrassed by our now public display of affection. I look down at Loki, whose eyes are on before he stands, and then strides towards him, clasping his arms around him, patting him on the back so loud the slaps sound almost painful. Wears a huge smile on his face. Thank you, my friend, Loki says, still not releasing him from this manly embrace. There is no need to thank me, Loki. You have my friendship and my axe, and that will always be the way. And you mine, replies Loki. More tears come, the events of the last hour becoming so overwhelming that I have to release them. In them there is joy and hope, and also excitement, the thought of a new life with a man that I love. A man that will love me and our child and do everything he can to make us happy. Are you going to let go? Finally asks jokingly. Again, thank you, Loki says. It's nothing. Now please, you and Mary go and make your plans. Fix what needs to be fixed. You are interrupting my time with my wife. Says Bonnie, slapping him on the arm. Honestly. What? I am only letting him know what is in store for him should things work out as they have for us. Oh, they will, says Loki, giving him one last clap on the back. I will make sure of it. I can't help but laugh through my tears, thinking that I will get to be as lucky as my cousin, to live a life that is rich in love, affection and friendship. I almost have to pinch myself. This is real, isn't it?
Chapter 22. Loki. The night air is chilly as we walk to my house, but I keep Mary's hand warm in mine. I can't believe it. It's been one thing after another, and I finally had to make a choice. Walking with her next to me, knowing about the life growing inside her, I know I made the right one. While I really wish I had been aware Mary was pregnant earlier, I'm glad she waited to tell me until I confessed my love for her. That way she wouldn't think the only reason I said I loved her was because I felt obligated. I really do love her. With every step, I feel like we are doing better than we were. Everything we've been through, all the heartache and tears, was worth it to get us to this point. We still have work to do. I'm sure that some of it won't be easy, but I know we can do it. We step inside my home, a place I hope she soon thinks of as her home, our home. I help her out of her coat. "So what do we do now?" I ask. "Do you need anything?" "I just need you," she says, wrapping her arms around me. "Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's way too hot for this platform."
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by this platform's guidelines.
To get the full unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks, and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, audiobook after audiobook, the worlds of Protheka are waiting for you.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable.
She settles back onto my chest, and I run my hand through her hair and sweep it down her back. "Still feeling all right?" I ask after a while. "I feel wonderful. Let's do it again." "Making up for lost time?" "Yes." I kiss her and then say, "I'll try my best."
Chapter 23. Mary.
As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, it looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for this platform to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full unabridged version over at worldsofprotheka.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Protheka.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable.
You can stop now, I say between panting breaths. He looks up at me, his face truly a mess of me. "Can or should?" he asks, his smile full of mischief. "Should," I say. "Should. I think I need to sleep again." "You go right ahead. I'll even behave myself this time." My world fades out on his laughter. When I open my eyes again, I'm alone in the bed, but there's a tray of food on the bed and a note. "I had one bit of business to take care of. I'll be back soon. Don't leave. Don't get dressed." I'm feeling very hungry, so I eat happily. I don't mind not getting dressed as I clean up a bit, setting the tray on the bedside table. I go to the bathroom and wash up a little. Looking at myself in the mirror, I have to laugh. I don't know if I've ever looked this happy. Then I hear the front door open. I bound back to the bed, settling in the sheets just as Loki opens the door. "Where did you go?" I ask. "Oh, I just wanted to make sure we had more things in the house you liked. Small shopping trip," he says before lifting the sheet to look at my body. "Good. You listened." "I wouldn't want to disobey the boss now, would I?" "Well, your boss would like to show you just how much he appreciates you," Loki says, as he quickly gets undressed and crawls back into bed with me.
Chapter 24. Loki. Mary is asleep again. I'd like to believe it's just from my prowess as a lover. But while it could be that, I also know she's pregnant, and that can be taxing on a body. She's pregnant. With my child. I still feel like I'm waiting to fully absorb the gravity of that realization. The news is joyous, but but there are still things that need to be handled to ensure the future of my child and my clan. I rise from the bed and get dressed. Xenon should be here soon. I did go and pick up a few items, leaving Malthu to guard the house, but I wanted Xenon on the job as well before I spent any real length of time away. I also didn't want him standing right outside my door while I made love to Mary. Like clockwork, he arrives just as I'm leaving the bedroom. I want you to make sure Mary is safe, I say, reminding him of my priority right now. Nothing can harm her. I'll defend her with my life, he says, as a dagger falls from his sleeve into his hand. I swear you could strip search Xenon, and he'd still be armed somehow. And sir, before you go, I have some news to report from the Shades. I return to my office with Malthu and have him send word that I'm ready to meet with the clan elders. When he returns, I ask, "Is everything ready?" "Yes, sir." I let everyone know. "Thank you, Malthu." Then I wait for the elders in the council chambers, watching as they all file in, one by one. Elders are supposed to be the wisest of our clan, but I see more than a few here that lack wisdom. Some to a dangerous degree. When the last member joins us, I clear my throat and stand. "Thank you all for coming. I have an announcement. There has been a lot of talk about my bonding ceremony. But I find it unfortunate that it all got started before I had a chance to make a formal statement. There were rumors spreading well before I even had a chance to finish looking over potential mates. I look at them, waiting for someone to say something, to object or admit to being a gossip. No such luck. It seems like people wanted to make the decision for me and leave me little choice but to confirm their pick publicly or risk losing face. But I refuse to be played like that. I see a few looks of growing concern swap between some elders, many of them landing on Hud, who looks increasingly uncomfortable. I'm chieftain, but I'm also a man. I tried a long time to separate those, and it made me less of both. So I choose who will be my mate, and it will be Mary. The chamber erupts in shouts about promises of being with an orc woman. Hud's angry voice carries over it all, though. I will not support a chieftain who doesn't support his people, and I have friends on this council. The chamber quiets down as all eyes are drawn to Hud and the purplish hue his green skin is taking on. I've pissed him off, good. You won't be able to rule without our support. The support of who exactly, Elder Hud? I ask. This council, he answers, but I can see the concerned confusion in his furrowed brow. Oh, this council. Well, I'd like to see enough of this council actually agree on anything, like choosing a new chieftain. I hope you can understand my confusion. Here I was thinking you meant your Swordhammer clan allies. What? I make it no secret that I have made inroads with a neighboring clan. My sister's married to their chieftain. Grataya, who was supposed to be your mate, is their daughter. But I wouldn't think to let them influence the decisions for the Burning Suns. Really? You wouldn't? I ask. Of course not. Are you sure? Then I see it in his eyes. He sees the trap I've laid out before him, but he has no choice but to walk right into it. I wouldn't betray the clan. Malthu! I call. Malthu marches in with a skinny-looking orc with bound hands and a gag covering parts of his bruised face. Following them into the chamber until there is almost only standing room are more and more of our soldiers. The council members' shock and concern flow around the room, but then it all eventually settles on Hud. He tries to maintain his composure, but he must feel all the eyes in the chamber on him, and his body starts to shake like he's straining to stay standing under the weight of it. Because the letters your courier here was carrying says otherwise. Any reason you were giving them so many details about this base? I was only sharing information I thought was relevant to having a bonding alliance. And when did you start sharing that information? Was it before or after you introduced me to your niece? Hud looks stricken. Are you accusing me of treason? Hud asks, his voice shaking. He's testing me. The Shades couldn't recover the letters from that far back, but from what Xenon told me, the correspondence did make vague references to it. It might not be enough to convince the entire council of treason, don't want to overplay my hand. At best, Elder Hud, I'm accusing you of poor judgment in giving out strategic information about this base without consulting the Council first. I'm accusing you of putting your own ambitions before the interests of the clan. Did you think you could force me to be bound to your niece, and then you'd have influence over me? Hud says nothing. If you could have me replaced, Hud, you and your allies would have done so already. But as you can see, the army supports me as chieftain, and the support of the army far outweighs the support of a handful of council members, no matter how connected they may be. I know that if there are more elders trying to undermine me, they'll think they have enough support within our army that this threat is meaningless. But what they don't know is any of the soldiers I've assembled here. I made sure of that. And Irish come to stand behind me. They've been very busy talking with soldiers and finding those trustworthy, those who want our kind to embrace a new future. Each and every one of them is someone I, or Irish handpicked because we knew we were willing to risk trusting them. While Grataya may have thought healing injured soldiers made us weak, it turns out many soldiers appreciate not being left to die. Outside this chamber, they might have allies among our fighting force, but I can see it on their faces. They don't have any of them in this chamber right now. Hud, I will see you off this council. You put the clan at risk for your naked ambitions, I say. The soldiers behind Hud seize him by the arms and pull him out of the center of the chamber and towards the door. Hud struggles impotently against their grip. You'll be the death of the burning sun, you and all your human-loving freaks. You weaken us, brothers. Don't let him do this. He mustn't. His voice becomes too muffled by the agitated discussion amongst the elders and the door closing behind the soldiers hauling him away. Does anyone else feel the need to challenge my position as chieftain today? I ask loud enough to be heard over all of them. The chamber falls silent. In that case, I consider this council meeting to be over. You are dismissed. As the elders, flanked by scores of soldiers, leave the chamber, I settle back into my chair. Claps me on the shoulder and, leaning down softly, asks, should we put the elders under surveillance? We still don't know who was behind the attacks.
Chapter 25. Mary. When I wake up again, I feel pleasantly sore in places. I roll over to find Loki isn't there. I get up and stretch before getting dressed and opening the door. Standing there is Xenon with several soldiers. What's going on? I ask, knowing that I'm unlikely to get answers from Xenon. I'm not entirely sure what his job is. I think he might be some sort of spy for the chieftain, but all I know is that Loki never wanted any records of their meetings. So I was never there to take notes. The chieftain wanted to make sure you were looked after while he handled some council business. He requested that you stay inside the house until he returns. Xenon says, in his slightly unnerving monotone. Oh. I'm a little surprised I got an answer at all. In my time as Loki's secretary, I think that was collectively more words than Xenon had ever spoken to me before. I guess that's okay. I slip past him and head down the hall. I'm a few paces into my journey to the kitchen when I realise Xenon and 2 other soldiers are right behind me. I stop and turn around, and Xenon is right there, close enough to kiss. Oddly, I don't feel that sort of discomfort from him. There's nothing sexual about his closeness, but it's still a bit much. Can I have perhaps a bit more space, guys? Please? I ask. Xenon nods and takes a few steps back. Thank you. I decide to make something for dinner. I see a lot more in the kitchen than I expected, but Loki did say he went and got stuff for me. Damn, I say. Is everything okay? Xenon asks. His tone and expressionless face make it hard to gauge if he's concerned for me or annoyed with me. Oh, it's nothing. I keep meaning to get ginger tea and should have mentioned it to Loki before he went shopping. Xenon just nods and continues surveying the kitchen like he expects assassins to leap out of the oven at any moment. His eyes are never still. Looking over the stuff Loki got, I see that I have enough for an old family recipe, shepherd's pie. It's one that I barely have to measure things for anymore and can eyeball most ingredients. I also see what I need to make some apple turnovers for dessert. I realise there are probably other things I can make, but I don't have all my recipes memorised. I'm going to have to collect my recipes from my old place and from Bonnie's and bring them here, to my new home. Home with Loki. I get a little giddy at the thought. Finally, after everything, it's like all my dreams are coming true. While Xenon seems uninterested in my cooking, the two soldiers with him seem acutely aware I'm making food. I don't know what the proper protocol here is. Do you offer food to bodyguards or pretend they're night there? Maybe not all my dreams are coming true. I wouldn't need bodyguards in that case, and wouldn't have to wonder if I'm supposed to feed them or not. But I just focus on making dinner for Loki and me, though I start doubling the ingredients for the turnovers. If we end up with too many, well, then I'm sure I can find someone to eat them. When I put the turnovers in the oven, I have a little bit to wait. I clean up the kitchen and check the timer. 15 minutes left. That's when I hear someone yelling my name outside. Xenon perks up much like a dog who just heard something. "Stay here," he says. I should perhaps do so, but I end up following him anyway. When one of the soldiers steps in my way, I step around him and then glare as if daring him to try to physically hold me there. I need to know what's going on. Xenon heads out the front door, and I'm not that far behind him. Standing in the yard is an orc woman. She is pretty, almost statuesque, strong-looking too. And with the way she's yelling my name, I'm glad I have soldiers with me. "There you are, you human trash," the woman yells. Xenon turns and looks at me, and for the first time, I see his face is capable of expression. Quite a lot, actually. He somehow manages to communicate, "What are you doing? Get back in the house. We will be discussing proper security later," without ever saying a word. "It's your fault my uncle is off the council and could be executed for treason. You vile temptress. I bet you're screwing that whole house full of soldiers, aren't you?" I have no idea what this woman is talking about, and all her accusations aren't true, but the words still sting. Then 2 other soldiers come up and drag her away. When we get back into the house, Xenon is calm and expressionless again, but I hear it in his words. He's not happy. "I can't keep you safe if you don't listen." But that's it. There's no lecture, no belittling me, just stating that like it's a fact. And I find it hard to argue with him. "Sorry," I say. When Loki gets home, he tells me about the council meeting. I cycle through 6 emotions, from proud that he stood up for me to slightly amazed he'd managed to corner Hud like that. And now the orc woman screaming at me makes a lot more sense. And I'm glad I made more turnovers. They were a hit with the few soldiers Xenon left behind. That night, I'm feeling a little sore for another round of lovemaking, but Loki doesn't seem to mind. He seems perfectly content to just hold me in his arms as we both fall asleep. My dreams are strange mixes of erotic and soft and embarrassing, with Grataya bursting into the room mid-coitus to call me trash. My eyes snap open, and I see it's still dark. Loki's arms are still around me, and he breathes evenly. I'd like to stay there, and I could probably fall right back asleep, except that I have to pee. I debate with myself if it's urgent enough to get out from under the warm covers. Still, after trying and failing to fall back asleep, I get up and go to the bathroom, annoyed that I feel very awake now. But I suppose once this baby gets a little bigger, I'm going to have to get used to this when they decide to kick me in the bladder in the middle of the night. Walking back to the bed, I smell something off. I look and see strange purple smoke wafting under the doorway. Then I suddenly feel very tired. A moment ago I wanted to be tired, but this feels unnatural, heavy in a strange way. Sleeping gas. I rush over to the bed, shaking Loki with all of my failing strength. His eyes pop open, and the smile on his lips fades instantly when he sees my face. "What's wrong?" he asks, sitting up. I try to say sleeping gas, but my tongue feels thick and slow like a half-dead slug in my mouth. I point to the door as it feels like my bones all turn into jelly. I go limp as Loki scoops me up into his arms, cursing in Orcish. He turns and kicks open the window. Taking a running leap, he lands on the ground below. Then I see figures behind him. For a second, I think it's the soldiers guarding the house. But they grab him, pulling me from his arms. I can hear him yelling for me, but everything is clouded and distant, and my world fades into darkness.
Chapter 26. Loki. 3 orcs are on top of me before I have time to react, a fourth prying Mary from my arms. Her eyes flutter as she fights to stay conscious, her body too heavy from the gas to cooperate. The sight of her being dragged away from me with our unborn child in her belly stokes a strength in me I didn't know I had. I grab the arm of the orc who's latched onto my back and clinging to my shoulders, pitching my weight forward to swing him over my head. He collides with the ground with a brutal thud. I drop a knee between his eyes, my kneecap meeting his skull with a sickening crunch. He doesn't move again. I sprint towards Mary, body slamming the orc beside her unconscious body and gathering her to me as quickly and gently as I can. The orc is on his feet again quickly, his 2 companions not far behind him, but I've already taken off running. Where are all of our guard patrols? I think, mentally kicking myself for sending Xenon away. As Chieftain, my home is situated nearly dead center of the base, with patrols coming through the area at least every hour and plenty of neighbors. All of the residences nearby seem to be empty, which is both a blessing and a curse. Despite my unusual speed for an orc, our enemies are gaining on us, so I duck into the first house we come upon. I'm up the stairs in no time, pushing into the bedroom at the top of the stairs. Mary seems to be more alert, her efforts to stay conscious not going to waste. Her delicate arms cling around my neck, and I have to force myself to gently extricate myself from her. I open the closet, tucking her safely into the bottom of it, where she's partially hidden by the various garments inside. I spare a few precious seconds caressing her face tenderly, telling myself it won't be the last time I touch her. Mary, please listen to me. Just stay here. Don't come out no matter what happens. Only come out for me or Xenon. I love you, I whisper hurriedly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Her mouth moves as if to respond, but she's still sluggish from the gas, and I have no time to lose. I shut the door to the closet and close the bedroom door quietly after me as well. They'll expect that I won't leave her side, so I have to put some distance between the 2 of us to keep her safe. My head spins as I make my way down the stairs. While Mary got the worst of the sleeping gas, I'm certainly not immune to its effects, which makes our situation feel all the more dire. 3 shadows move outside the large window near the staircase. I crouch down, positioning myself behind the door to claim my first victim. The idea of anyone making it up those stairs long enough to hurt Mary helps clear some of the lingering symptoms of the sleeping gas, although not all of them. The 3 shadows split off, only one remaining outside of the door. I suspect the other 2 have gone to see if there are other points of entry they can exploit. But for now, all of my focus is on the orc about to cross the threshold. The second he shut the door behind him, I'm on my feet. He doesn't even have time to process the sensation of my hands on his head before I snap his neck. I guide his body to the ground, quieting his fall to help maintain the element of surprise. If these orcs think I'm going to be quivering under a bed somewhere, waiting for them to find me, they have sorely underestimated their chieftain, I think with grim satisfaction. To underestimate one's enemy is to admit defeat before the battle has even begun. I crouch, moving as quietly as I can against the wall through the unfamiliar house. I peek around the corner of the hall into the kitchen, where I see a shadow lingering outside of the back door. I don't have time to replicate my last assault, so I improvise. I grab a knife from the knife block on the counter and tuck myself around the corner in the living room, slowing my breathing so that I blend into the quiet dark. The back door squeaks slightly on its hinges as it opens. My ears strain to pick up any trace of the orc, or what direction he's moving in, but all I hear is the thunder of my own heart. A floorboard just around the corner creaks, and I press myself tightly against the wall, trying to take up as little space as possible. Just a few more steps, I think, my anticipation mounting. As if to answer my call, the orc rounds the corner, walking right past me before coming to a stop as he notices the crumpled body of his companion at the foot of the stairs. "What the—" he starts before my blade sinks into the back of his neck. With one forceful jerk, I sever his spinal column, killing him instantly. Dark blood begins to leak onto the floor, and I curse myself for being so hasty. This much blood means footprints, and footprints means that I lose the element of surprise, I think, racking my brain for how to move forward. I have no idea how many enemies I may face or how long it may take the guards to figure out something is amiss. I have to proceed like I'm on my own. Blinding pain cracks through my skull suddenly, nearly bringing me to my knees. A powerful set of hands grabs me under the arms and drags me out of the front door before dropping me into the grass outside of the house. I find my bearings quickly and move to leap to my feet when I'm hit from behind once again. I blink through my unfocused eyes, forcing myself back up to my hands and knees. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," comes a chiding voice from behind me. I growl in response, lunging towards the voice only to be met with yet another vicious blow to the head. The orcs standing around me laugh as I try to focus my vision. I count 5, maybe 6 shadowy figures standing in a circle around me. Where could they all be coming from? I wonder in disbelief, panic beginning to set in. There are too many for me to fight on my own, even if they weren't armed. It dawns on me all at once that the orcs that arrived with Gretia are still on the base. After catching wind of Hud's imprisonment and my intent to mate with Mary, I should have guessed there'd be some kind of retribution. But this is the equivalent to a declaration of war. "Where's the human trash?" one of the orcs asks, a gleeful edge to his tone that makes me snarl. "Go find out. He's not going anywhere anytime soon," another responds, poking me in the back with the tip of his machete. I watch as the orc goes into the house, my stomach clenching in horror as he makes his way up the stairs. I try to keep my face neutral as I watch his ascent, before turning to face the orc behind me. "Whatever your ambitions, they will fail," I growl at him. The orc only laughs. "Scary words from an orc on his hands and knees," he retorts, leveling his blade at me again. I eye him, trying to formulate some sort of plan, when the orc's voice from earlier rings through the crisp night air. "Got her!" he calls in a sing-song voice. I leap up immediately, turning to rush him in an effort to get to Mary when everything descends into chaos. "Mary!" I cry, reaching towards the orc's form as it comes into focus. White-hot pain ricochets through me as I lunge towards the orc who has Mary, my skin tearing in the wake of the machete slashing through my side. Chapter 27. Loki. I crumple, my mind threatening to leave me rather than cope with the agony pulsating through my body. Blood pours from my side as I writhe on the ground, clutching the gash in a desperate attempt to staunch the blood flow as I crane my neck to the doorway of the house where the orc emerges. He is empty-handed, staring at me with a sickening grin twisting his features. I register his deception as another wave of pain crashes through me, stifling any short-lived relief I felt at realizing Mary is, for the moment, still safe. She may be safe for now, but my inattention could mean death for both of us, I think, dread chilling me to the bone. Although it could be blood loss, too. I grit my teeth against the pain as I turn back to face the orc whose machete is still dripping with my blood. He's spinning it idly in his hands, watching me like a cat watches a mouse writhe in its grip. "If you have any sense of self-preservation at all, you'll flee while you still have the chance," I tell him as I hold his gaze, forcing my face into an expression of calm defiance, despite my injuries. The orc smiles wickedly down at me, wiping his bloodied machete on my shirt. "No one is coming to your rescue, Chief. I'm sure you've already noticed the absence of your usual patrols." He drawls lazily, his smile only growing wider as my calm facade begins to crack, rage shining through. "You're on your own. Well, except for the human, of course. The other orcs laugh, anxiously awaiting the next opportunity for violence. My stomach turns as I think about how defenseless my injury has left Mary and our child. Our child. Typically, when you hear of someone dying, they say their life flashes before their eyes. My life only truly began when I met Mary, but it's not my life or even Mary's that I find myself preoccupied with. Instead, images of a fat, sage-skinned little orcling with blonde wisps of hair like his mother's dance in my mind. He's crying when I hold him for the first time, and then he's laughing and crawling and walking and running. He's crying in the kitchen as Mary fusses over his skinned knee. He's holding a sword for the first time. He's asking me how he's supposed to ask a girl on a date. I think blood loss is getting the best of me. The orcs circle above me, seeming to sense my deteriorating state. Rather than give them the satisfaction of watching me die, I cling to the images of my child my failing mind thrusts before me. I cling to the feeling of Mary sleeping soundly in my arms, to the sound of her laugh, and to the feeling of her bare skin under my fingertips. I push through the developing haze gathering in my mind, forcing myself back to reality, forcing myself to fight death back. Come out, wherever you are!" jeers one of the orcs at the house. "Come out, little human, or we'll kill your big bad chieftain." "No," I groan in response. I pray that for the first time in her life, Mary abides by my request against her own wishes, or shows some propensity for selfishness. She does no such thing. My eyes turn to the house just in time to see her weakly descending the stairs, leaning heavily against the wall as she takes each step carefully. Her free hand cradles her belly as tears stream down her face. "Mary!" I trail off weakly. I try to push myself to my hands and knees, but a blow lands squarely between my shoulder blades, knocking me back to the ground. "Stop!" Mary cries out, her eyes never leaving me. The orcs part to let her stumble to me, my blood staining her gauzy nightgown as she helps me sit up. I cradle her against me, relishing the warmth of her small body and that familiar sugary citrus smell. My hand finds hers where it rests over her belly, and she looks up at me, tears still streaming down her face. "Loki," she whispers as she looks at me. I'm scared. I brush the tears off of her face with my thumb, doing my best to put on a brave face for her. "Me too," I admit quietly. "But we're going to be okay, I promise." "Come on now, Loki. Don't you know not to make a promise you can't keep?" sneers the orc with the machete from behind us. Mary flinches away from his voice, her grasp on me tightening as if she can protect us by will alone. "Whatever it is you want, you can have it. Whatever you're after, it's yours, as long as you don't hurt Mary," I tell him, trying to force the desperation from my voice. "You can have anything. And I'll take whatever I want once you're both dead," he says, chilling finality in his tone. One of the orcs lurches forward, ripping Mary from my arms before flinging her back to the ground a few feet away from me. "No!" I roar, reaching for her as two orcs restrain me from behind. I struggle against them to no avail. "Loki!" Mary cries out, terror coloring her face. One of the orcs levels an axe at her and she freezes as she stares at it. "He'll be right behind you," the orc tells her with a sadistic grin as he raises the axe above his head, aiming for Mary. A blood-curdling scream ripples through the air as the orc swings his axe down before it lurches to a halt, and then falls to the ground mere inches from Mary. The orc whose hands had been wrapped around the handle of the axe seems frozen in place, his now empty hands flying to his chest, grabbing the arrow that protrudes from it. Mary scrambles backwards, her eyes wide with fear, as the orc falls to the ground. The hands wrapped around my arms release me as the orcs around us descend into chaos, shouting at one another and trying to catch sight of the invisible threat. I crawl to Mary, throwing myself on top of her. "Stay down!" I manage to force out as a barrage of arrows land around us, taking a few of the enemy orcs down with them. The remaining orcs scramble, some fleeing in the opposite direction of the arrows, others reaching for their weapons. My eyes lock with those of the orc with the machete. His lips peel back in a growl as he charges where Mary and I lay on the ground. With the last of my remaining strength, I lurch to my feet in front of Mary before lunging at him. We fall to the ground, locked in a struggle I'm nearly certain will cost me my life. As long as it doesn't cost Mary's, I think with morbid resolve. I grab the orc's hand that grips his machete as I roll on top of him and slam it into the ground with as much force as I have. His grip loosens, but doesn't fall, so I slam his arm to the ground again. His other hand beats on my chest and face, trying to shove me off of him, but primal rage keeps me where I am. I slam his hand into the ground a final time, and the machete clatters away from us. His eyes widen and turn to where the machete lays in the grass a few feet from us, and he reaches for it frantically, trying to find a way back to his beloved weapon. I won't give him the opportunity. I ball my hand into a fist, raising it high over my head as I bring it down on his face. His skull cracks under the weight of my blow, blood from his nose spraying my face. He writhes under me as I lift my fist again. My fist comes down again and again, until the orc beneath me no longer has a face, only a bloody mash of tissue and bone fragment. Once my brain seems to catch up with my body, my arm falls limply to my side. I look up, dazed from blood loss and exhaustion, in time to see Xenon, Jorgen, and a plethora of guards running towards us. A battle cry sounds just as my world goes dark.
My parents sold me to the dark market.
I am the avatar of chaos, and nothing will stop me from fulfilling the prophecy.
Looks like you're the only one left. Take a step forward.
It's her. She's the woman from the prophecy. My key to godhood.
This is Delia. Starting price is 3 ducats.
You will wed soon and restore the Enoch family name.
Okay. I'll lower it down even more. 2 ducats. Who wants to buy Delia for 2 ducats?
She is my mate. Destiny has foretold it.
You don't know anything about me, and you want me to marry you?
You're nothing but a human toy to be used and discarded.
Hold on. How about 1 ducat? Does anyone want her?
A gilded cage is still a cage.
6 ducats. 6 ducats for Delia. I'll give you revenge on your parents if you marry me.
Okay, I'll marry you.
Godhood is mine for the taking.
Chapter 28. Mary. It's a miracle Loki is alive. It's been a week since we were attacked in our home, and while the clan has rallied around us and helped us through our darkest moments, I still wonder if they'll come back for us, if we'll ever really be safe again. I push the thought from my mind as I smile at the orc in front of me, the third today who's stopped by with a plate of traditional orc lamb and their well wishes. I thank her again for her kindness and invite her inside, but she waves off my request. You and the chieftain need rest, she says in a matter-of-fact voice, and food to speed your recovery. I just wanted to provide what I can. I smile at her and wave as she turns away, closing the door between us and feeling secretly grateful for her refusal to come in. As lovely and heartwarming as the public displays of support have been, all I want is to be with Loki. I set the plate down in the kitchen among the dozen other various gifts and meals that have been brought to our doorstep in the past week. I grab a tray, arranging 2 fresh cups of tea on it before piling a plate high with an array of pastries, roasted meats, and casseroles. I slide the plate onto the tray before making my way back up the stairs to the bedroom Loki and I have been staying in. While it's not permanently our house, neither of us could bear to return to either of our former residences. And Bonnie couldn't stand us staying in the clinic once Loki woke up, I think, a private smile playing on my lips. Loki was unconscious for 3 days after that awful night, and while it was terrifying wondering whether or not he'd wake up, a part of me is secretly glad he was unconscious. Everything Bonnie had to do to keep him alive. I shudder at the memories of all of the stitching, the blood, and the sleepless nights I spent at his side. I'll never forget the way it felt to reach inside his body, feeling the thrum of his still beating heart around my hand to pinch off one of the severed arteries so Bonnie could get a clear look without fresh blood getting in the way. I shake my head, trying to dispel the gruesome memories. He's awake now, I remind myself, and healing faster than anyone thought possible. Birds chirp through the open window of our bedroom, the gauzy curtains dancing in a soft breeze. Loki smiles at me as I lean against the doorframe and nods towards the tray. "Another overly friendly visitor?" he asks with a grin. I laugh, walking to my chair beside the bed and setting the tray down in his lap. "Be nice," I admonish him playfully. "At this rate, we'll never have to cook for ourselves again." Loki looks back at me with mock distress. "Whatever shall we do?" he says with a laugh. I roll my eyes, grabbing the book off the bedside table and settling into my chair next to Loki. "Up for another chapter while you eat?" I ask. He nods as he reaches for a pastry, his eyes never leaving me. I open the book and begin to read. Loki's gaze feels like a physical touch as I read aloud, caressing my face and trailing over me. It's difficult to stay focused on the words in front of me, and I stumble a few times, a blush rising to my cheeks. I look up from the book, hoping that perhaps I'm just self-conscious, but seeing the intensity of his stare firsthand only further disrupts my already scattered train of thought. Loki stares at me as if he needs to commit every feature to memory. There's an almost forceful tenderness in his rapt attention, something like the way a predator fiercely guards its cubs. I hold his gaze for a moment before sighing, arranging my features into a mask of false irritation. "Now how in the world am I supposed to read to you when you're undressing me with your eyes?" I ask him. Loki grins widely at me, motioning for me to come closer to the edge of the bed. I do, and his hands lock firmly around my waist as he tries to pull me into bed with him. I say, placing my hand flat against his chest as I shake my head. "You are not healed enough for any kind of vigorous activity." I smile coyly at him. As much as I miss being intimate, I have to admit, teasing him is pretty fun too. "What a dirty mind you have, Mary," he murmurs, his tone sending a thrill of anticipation down my spine. Am I not allowed to simply hold the woman I love? I roll my eyes at him again, muttering, "That is not what you were thinking about." "Clearly it's not what you were thinking about either," he retorts as I move the tray off the bed and onto the nightstand. My blush darkens a shade at the truth in his statement, and his smile deepens. Loki shifts in the bed, making room for me to crawl in beside him and lifting the covers to lay over the two of us. I curl against his chest, savouring the heat of his skin and the way his arms wrap around me. There have been far too many times where I thought I'd never get to have these moments with him again. I press myself closer to him at the thought, and his arms tighten around me in response as he buries his face in my hair. We just lay there together for a few moments, savouring the feeling of being close in silence. Loki presses idle kisses to the top of my head before trailing them down to my temples and the tips of my ears. I giggle, turning my face upwards to look at him. Loki takes my motion as an invitation and begins kissing every available bit of my face, my nose, cheeks, eyebrows, eyelids, etc., until I'm laughing and squirming under his barrage of affection. He pulls back for a moment, joy colouring his face, before he captures my lips in a soft kiss. I kiss him back, twining my arms around his neck and toying with the braid of dark hair that falls down his back. The kiss deepens as I press myself against him, need beginning to ache between my legs. Having almost lost him creates a desperation in these tender moments that nearly drives me wild. I break our kiss, gasping for air as our lips part. "I don't want to start anything we can't finish," I murmur, resting my forehead against his. Loki hums in acknowledgement, his hands squeezing my hips where they rest. "Speaking of finishing what we've started," he says, a playful cadence in his voice. I look up at him expectantly, waiting to hear what he has to say. "We're already a family, the three of us," Loki says as he places a gentle hand on my belly. But I want the two of us to be an official family before he gets here. He? I tease. Call it a father's intuition, Loki says with a grin. So what, pray tell, would make us an official family? I ask. Loki grabs my hand, raising it to his lips as he gently kisses the individual tips of my fingers. Mary Homer, will you do me the honour of being my mate? He asks, looking deeply into my eyes. I grin, tears pricking the corner of my eyes as glee floods through me. I was yours before you ever even asked, I tell him as I twine my arms around his neck. I pull his face down to meet mine, locking him into a deep kiss. Forever has never felt so good.
Chapter 29. Loki. As the crowd gathers in the center of the base, I look around to see the shades mixed in with the civilians and the town guard posted at regular intervals. It's a lot of security for a bonding ceremony, but I insisted that we take every precaution to keep Mary and everyone else safe. What's wrong? Mary asks. I'm just checking if the guards are in place. You need to trust your people more, she says. Jorgen isn't going to let anything happen to disrupt this. Are you sure? I did steal you away from him. Barely. And he's a professional, and I think he even has a lady friend now. Okay, I say, looking at her instead of the crowd. I just need to focus on her. It's surprisingly easy to do. Are you ready? I ask her. Yes, she says as we walk out in front of the crowd. There's tension in the air, but it doesn't feel like danger. Just, not everyone is happy with this arrangement. If not for the fact that Mary and my life would forever be intertwined at the end of it, I'm not particularly happy with having the ceremony in public either. Part of me wishes we could have just made it easy on ourselves and done this in private like and Bonnie did, but that wouldn't work. There was no hiding Mary after announcing she was my mate to the council. As the attack on my home proved, she was already a target. The only thing that making this a closed-door ceremony would accomplish is making it seem like I'm ashamed to have a human as a mate. And I most certainly am not. Mary and I talked about it. While we both agreed it wasn't what we wanted most, we knew that we had to take things like public opinion into consideration when planning this. The clan needed to see this union happen, so that there would be no doubt in anyone's mind that I'm proud to be with Mary. We want everyone to know that there's no shame in orcs and humans being mated. And so the whole thing is open to the public. But I wouldn't do this if I wasn't confident we dealt with the worst of the threats against us. I needed to make Mary as safe as possible. Having Jorgen and Xenon put their best people on this is just the final step in a long, arduous, and occasionally bloody process. First, I had to dismantle those who used violence and fear to undermine me. That started with talking to former Elder Hud. It took a while to convince him to cooperate, but I'm glad I decided to try diplomacy first. Uor was suggesting we beat the details out of him, though I think might have felt guilty if he had. It turned out that Hud had no love for the Swordhammer clan. He loved his sister, and the chief of the Swordhammer threatened her life if Hud didn't cooperate. The old man was terrified at every step of the way. As soon as they got their hooks in him, they not only had his sister to hold over him, but also the possibility of blackmailing him for everything he'd done for them already. Some of the details of his actions cast a long shadow of dishonor upon him. While he didn't carry out the poisoning of Malthu or the orcs at the training yard, he was the one sneaking the instructions and poison into the base to pass along to the Swordhammer clan sympathizers. I admit I was ready to kill him when he said he gave the instructions to attack Mary, but he gave up the names of all the sympathizers, including the name of the attacker. For his cooperation, I spared his life with the promise that he'd make this knowledge public once we'd taken care of the willing traitors in our ranks. It's a bit of a grim thought to think that I'm about to be bound to Mary in the same plaza where we executed more than 24 orcs. But it had to be done. The council members were slightly shocked when 2 of their own were among the conspirators. I was relieved to find Orc wasn't one of them. He may hate everything I'm doing, but at least he isn't a traitor, as far as I know. I look out over the crowd again. There are some of us who should be here this day that aren't. We lost many of our clanmates when we marched on the Swordhammer base to wipe them out. They'd been a thorn in our side for too long. There had been supply and territory battles that I had ignored, and their clan was much too close to the Windcleaver clan, who tried to steal Baby Forest. I had to take out those against us, not just those directly responsible, or these assaults would continue to happen. Just because I wanted to bring our people forward didn't mean they were willing to follow. While there were and are still elders on the council that object to my attempts to bring us closer to the humans, no one wanted our clan manipulated through such dishonorable tactics. The Burning Sun clan was united under one cause for a brief moment. While it is one of my greatest desires to see it be part of our future, it is good to know that despite our deep divisions, when it came to protecting the clan, we could come together. In the end, though, we destroyed them and were able to rescue Hud's sister and return her to him safely after years of being the unwilling bride to the chief of the Swordhammer clan. Grataya isn't my biggest fan, but she did thank me for rescuing her mother. I still wouldn't want her as a mate. She still hates humans and is way too stuck in the old ways. But she was horrified to find out she'd been used as a pawn by her father. But all of it, every bit of bloodshed, means our clan is safer now. There are still those who oppose my measures. Some like Grataya and Hud I'll never convince, but hopefully never again through such means. The guards and shades around the ceremony are just in case there are any lingering elements of Swordhammer sympathizers. Jorgen said he'd see to it personally, and I can see his bald head moving through the crowd, eyeing everyone, and ready to take them down if they so much as look at Mary sideways. She's a radiant vision in her dress. Unlike her cousin Bonnie, she opted to wear some more traditional orcish clothing. It was her suggestion. She's been trying her best to make inroads with orcs, and I find I love her for it even more. As Bashog begins the ritual, I look at her and see her eyes brimming with tears. With 2 more months of time to grow, our child has made his presence known. She's starting to show, and the orc garb accentuates that as if the people needed any more proof that she is my mate. The ceremony takes longer than usual. We went back and forth on it, but finally decided that we would have Bashog repeat the ritual in English for the humans in attendance. Try as I might, I couldn't ignore the obvious grumbling from the crowd at the consideration. But when Bashog pauses to give our war god the chance to object, no one moves. While many would love to stop this bonding from happening, none of them wish to incur his wrath by claiming to speak on his behalf. After we receive the blessings from friends and family, Bashog lays out the salt circle around us. All the trials, the heartbreak and doubt, the war, everything fades. I let the circle of salt become the borders of my universe. We are together now, I tell Mary. Yes, we are. I lean in and kiss her. It doesn't matter if some of my own people object to our love. It's real. And now, while they may have bitter resentments they gossip about in the quiet corners of the base, only the most foolhardy would try to break us apart. The war god has blessed our bond. We are one, body and spirit.
Chapter 30. Rodeo. Loki indulges me in the human tradition of carrying me over the threshold when we get home. Though I never planned on it, my feet are just tired. I know we had to make a big deal about our ceremony. I mean, it was a big deal, but we had to make it a big public deal so that no one could say that Loki was ashamed of me. I just wish that didn't mean standing for so long. Home at last, he says, carrying me up the stairs. Where are we going? I ask. I thought I was taking you to the bedroom. So you could have your wicked way with me? If you'd like. I just thought you were tired and might like to rest, he says. It's really just my feet, and I don't need those to lay in bed. I smile at him. You're insatiable, he says. What do you mean? Twice this morning and a quickie before the ceremony. Are you complaining? Not at all. I'm just surprised. Maybe orc women are different, but a lot of human women can end up being very horny while pregnant. I wouldn't know about orc women, and I don't need to know. There's only one woman for me, and she's human. Charmer, I say as he sets me on the bed. I'm glad the orcish wedding attire is pretty simple to get out of, because I think we both are wearing entirely too much clothing. I pull the simple dress up and over my head, revealing I wore nothing underneath. Turns out, orcs know what you do after being joined like that, and don't feel the need to let things get in the way. I don't know if I'd be quite as aroused all the time around Loki if I weren't pregnant. That's something I can find out down the road. But it really has become a fairly all-consuming thought. I'm sure if I wanted to embarrass myself, I could ask Bonnie to explain to me exactly why pregnancy would affect me this way. But I don't need to understand it. I just want to give in to it. I want Loki. He wants me. It seems like a simple enough equation.
This scene is about to get too steamy for this platform's comfort. And as much as we'd love to keep going, their guidelines say we need to stop here.
To continue releasing these free audiobooks on this platform, we've got to play by the rules.
The passion doesn't end here.
Visit worldsofprotheka.com to hear the full, uncut version of this fantasy romance, and every daring moment that YouTube can't handle.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off unabridged audiobooks in the Worlds of Protheka.
Don't let YouTube hold you back. Immerse yourself in a world of magic, danger, and unfiltered passion.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
Listen unabridged and you'll never want to go back.